morning. I'd like to call this Tampa City Council meeting to order. At this time for invocation, we just have a moment of silence. We would please stand for a moment of silence and then keep standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you very much. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Madam Clerk, if you can take a roll call.
Carlson. Here. Hurtak. Here. Clendenin.
Here.
Henderson.
Present.
Vieira. Here. Miranda.
Here.
And Maniscalco.
Here.
We have a physical quorum.
Thank you. Mr. Shelby, would you like to read the rules and procedures of public comment?
I would be happy to, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of council, members of the public, Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney. I'd like to go over briefly the rules of decorum for the conduct of today's meeting. As you saw outside, there are general public comment speaker cards. If you wish to speak to anything on the agenda or otherwise during general public comment, please fill out a speaker card and place it in the box, 1 card per speaker. Cards will be accepted until the start of general public comment. Each person submitting a card will be recognized by name by the chair to approach and speak. A 3-minute time limit applies. Please print legibly. Names that cannot be read will not be called. Now, if you are here on an item that is set on the agenda for a public hearing, you will have that opportunity to speak when the public hearing is called. And if you wish to speak at that public hearing, please use the sign-up sheet that is on the podium outside the chambers. If you need assistance, please see city staff. Now, members of the public are allowed a reasonable opportunity at the beginning of today's meeting to address any item on the agenda before City Council takes official action on the item. Speakers and members of the public are kindly reminded to refrain from disruptive behavior, including making vulgar or threatening remarks or making or causing disruptive noises or sounds or displaying signs or graphics. Speakers are also reminded from making personal attacks against any city official, staff member, or any other member of the public. The chair will rule out of order any person who speaks without being recognized or attempts to address the council from outside the speaker area at the podium. Persons failing to comply with the rules may be ruled out of order by the chair, and at the discretion of the chair may be removed from the chambers for the remainder of today's meeting. And finally, city council members should refrain from engaging the speaker during public comment. And the public should be aware that City Council does not take questions or have a dialogue during general public comment. This is your opportunity to express your position. Thank you.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion to adopt the minutes from March 6, 2025 and the evening session of March 13, 2025? Motion from Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilmember Clendenin. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, I'm going to go through the agenda, a couple of housekeeping items. A memo was received from Councilmember Vieira requesting that item number 97 be heard first after lunch, and further requesting that the Boone-Stoppel family have a chance to speak after staff's presentation. All right. Is there a motion for that?
Second.
Motion from Councilman Vieira, second from Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
We're going to have to wait until 1:30 to reschedule item number 90 due to a misnotice. Just want to let you know that we'll do that at 1:30. For the administrative update, Whit Remmer is going to say goodbye and introduce us to Kayla Caselli as the interim. I'm glad that Whit is coming because there were some questions about a solar program on the city's website. So I'm glad he's coming. That's just my own thing. I have a memo received from Councilmember Vieira requesting to inquire of the administration any potential logistical challenges preventing distribution of the bunker gear in a timeline. Councilmember Vieira would like this to be heard under the administrative update. Are you aware of that, Chief Bennett?
I am.
All right, so we have that.
Thank you.
Item number 96, Councilman Vieira is just going to receive and file. Let's do that after public comment. So item number 96, we'll do that after public comment. Item number 98, we have a memo received from Councilmember Vieira continuing this item to a future date. We'll do that after public comment. A memo received for item number 102 from Chief Burkhall to continue this item May 15th with the FY25 mid-year report. We'll do that after public comment. We have item 103 and 104. Councilmember Hurtak, did you want to speak on item 103?
Yes. So these I actually had moved
I requested to have moved to April 3rd. So this is very confusing. What has happened is that there's 4 issues all put together. So one of the first things I want to do is to kill an old motion, E 2016-8, Chapter 21, which requested an in-person quarterly stormwater report, because now we're doing them monthly. So
And-
I would like to rescind that quarterly.
Is that the Cohen motion?
Yes,
Okay, I heard
from
2016.
literally 2016.
Those were the days. We have a
Yeah.
motion from Councilmember Hurtak, second from Councilmember Vieira. All in favor?
Aye. Then, so this was a administration to provide an in-person quarterly report providing an update. So that's gone. 103 is now gone because we aren't doing that anymore.
So you're going to make a motion to remove 103.
Correct.
Is that's permanent removal?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
We have a motion from Councilmember Hurtak, second from Councilmember Clendenin. Chief Bennett, did you want to, I saw you move there.
I still have more to go, so.
Yeah, no, but I saw him a moment. Go ahead, sir, anything?
No, good morning, Council. John Bennett, Chief of Staff, and good morning to the public. I was informed by Ms. Duncan's office that they wanted to discuss the reporting sequence for these. So I've just asked if council could work with her office. They may have already, I'm just not aware.
I have.
Thank you.
Thank you, that's
We have
why
a
I'm here.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
And then you're.
Okay, and then looking at 104, so this was the monthly in-person report, and I had said that we could move this to April 3rd. I did this at the last meeting in the evening.
Yeah.
This was after all that stuff, and so not sure why it's on this agenda, because I asked for it to be moved to April 3rd. So this needs to move to April 3rd. Now, their request is to continue this item to May 22nd to a workshop.
Okay.
The big problem with that is that right now, we have a rule that says you can only have 5 items in a workshop, and right now we have 6. So we can't move it to May. And then the next available date is August,
How
which
about-
is far into the hurricane season.
Yeah.
So actually what my goal is this is not really a workshop issue. I'm just asking for the monthly in-person report to continue to April 3rd, which is, we've already had one, and we need to have the monthly because the citizens are very concerned about stormwater right now. May is too late, August is too late. We asked for this to be monthly. It should be monthly.
Did you check with the department about?
Yes, and they want to move this to May 22nd. They have.
No, what about May 1st? There's a regular meeting.
Again, this is a monthly report,
Yeah.
so it should be monthly. So the next one should be April 3rd.
Can
Monthly.
we wait until we speak with them? I mean, like, 'cause it's probably gonna come after lunch.
Sure.
Yeah,
Now,
we'll hold 104 for now until we speak to the department.
however, all I. Oh, okay. So this, I apologize. This is actually, 104 is being, see, this is why this is confusing. 104 is actually a one-time, and that's the, yeah, let's wait till,
Yeah.
you want to wait till afternoon when they come up?
That's the one-time stormwater service.
Oh, okay, I apologize. This is the one-time stormwater service assessment. This is not the in-person monthly report.
Okay.
This is, we asked for it once, and I'm willing to have it moved to May 1st.
Okay, so.
So this one-time report be moved to May 1st.
So we're gonna continue item 104 to May 1st?
Yes.
And you've checked with the department and they'll work with you? Okay.
They haven't, they just said May 22nd. They were very insistent. So if they want to change that, they can come to me, but I think May 1st is very close to May 22nd, so
Yeah.
that's enough time.
Can we wait until we just get confirmation from them?
Okay.
Let's just hold this until after lunch, just to be safe.
Okay,
So
but
104
I
we're
just
gonna hold.
request that we talk about it right after lunch.
Yeah, that's fine.
After
After
the Boonstable.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fair, that's fair. It gives us enough time. All right, so we're gonna hold, all right, so item 104 stands until we get further clarification. Items 105 and 106 are written staff reports to receive and file. Can we, we have a
Second.
motion to receive and file by Councilmember Henderson, second from Councilmember Hurtak. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, and all right, and then I have 93, 94, 95. We'll take that under, or after consent agenda. All right. Yeah?
Could you inquire for those if council members need staff present for these?
All right. All right, administration update, we'll have 93, 4, and 5. Do you need staff present for those? If not, we'll take them after the consent agenda.
Otherwise, it would be the afternoon.
Yeah. Anybody?
No?
All right, so we'll take that after the consent agenda. And let me just go through these staff reports real quick.
You don't want,
Yeah?
Councilman Vieira, you don't want 95?
Do you want them here in person for 95, sir? Yeah, we're going to talk about the administration update.
Yeah, I didn't just because we're dealing with an administration update. I anticipate that after that, we'll make additional motions based on that, but for the, just to not be redundant, unless if council thinks otherwise, I
All right.
Are you gonna hold that then?
Huh?
Are you gonna hold 95 for the till after the administration update?
Do you want to?
Yeah, you know what, that'd be smart.
That's fine.
Good
All
idea.
right, we'll take that up after the consent agenda. Those other items, then 95 will hold. 96 is going to be a receive and file. Number 97, there is a PowerPoint presentation. We already discussed that. Item number 98. We have Councilmember Vieira going to continue to a future date. We'll talk about that at that time. Number 99, that's a yes. We've gotten a lot of emails on those, on the 99. We have an in-person report on 100. 101 is a yes. I'll be taking up that discussion. Item number 102 is, we already talked about a continuance. Item 103, we already discussed, and 104. So if there's nothing else, can I get a motion to receive? I'm sorry, to approve the agenda and the addendum. We have a motion from Councilman Miranda, second from Councilmember Vieira. All in favor? Aye. All right. Ceremonial activities. We have Councilmember Miranda presenting to Mr. Ron Rotella, and I'd also like to acknowledge former City Council Member Rudy Fernandez is here, served in the 90s, and just wanted to acknowledge your presence, sir. All right, Councilman Miranda.
Honorable member of Tampa City Council, all of you, starting with Chairman Guido and the other 6 that serve with us, the other 5 that serve with us anyway. You know, there are times in history when you say, well, what am I going to say? And in this time, you don't have to say that, because here's an individual who worked for how many mayors? 7. I've never heard of anyone working for 7 different mayors. And it started back when? 1965. And you look like you're 50 years old. So from 1965 to now, that's 70 years when you count 25 and 35. Unbelievable. And when he worked for the city, when he started, let me just give you a little example of what it was like 70 years ago. There was 606 people living in downtown Tampa. You remember that. 600 were in jail, and the other 6 were looking to get in when the first 6 were dismissed. There was nothing in downtown Tampa to speak of, and I'm not trying to downplay our city. You could leave any parking garage, not even look right or left, make a left turn or right-hand turn, there was no cars coming. With Ron Rotella's help and the mayors that he worked with, all 7, these things started to change. And doing that, it's very difficult to do what you have to do, maintain what you have, and then work on the change all at the same time. Rotella and those individuals, those 7 mayors that he worked with, along with, I think it was at that time when I came in anyway, Jimmy Palermo and Fernando Noriega. Fernando Noriega was development, Jimmy Palermo was the attorney for the city of Tampa. And if it wasn't for individuals like Ron Rotella, who had a vision, and the mayors that he worked with, the last one was Mayor Greco, I believe, these things wouldn't happen. The streetcar is one of them. And the expansion of different things in the city, the changing of the operation of we can't do it to I can do it, and we will do it. And those are the things that make the city of Tampa today what it is. So we're going back in history, sometimes we don't remember everything that happened because it happened so quickly. 70 years is a long time in a calendar, but when you're turning a city around, and they did it in a long, long time ago, when it was very difficult, there was no money to speak of. We had to get grants to hire police officers. We hired 103 police officers sometime in the mid-90s with no money. The federal grants gave us money for those officers, as you well remember, to hire them for 3 years, and then we had to pick up the salaries under the Greco administration. In fact, Mayor Greco called me late last night, sometime after 11, to tell me he couldn't be here because one of his little puppy's dogs he had to take to the vet, and he thought he was not going to make it. So, but he told me to express my apologies to Rotella and his family. So, Ron, if I may read this, and I appreciate everything you've done and everything you continue to do. It is Tampa City Council's profound pleasure to recognize the accomplishment of Ron Rotella, who is known as the go-to guy in the city of Tampa for nearly 20 years. He began his service under Mayor Dick Greco in 1966 and ended in 1983 while serving for Mayor Bob Martinez. Ron honed his skills on the most difficult financial times in the city. In other words, there was no money. These are the things that make what we are today, people who sacrifice a lot when they didn't have anything so that the city could continue to march forward. Despite the challenges, Ron assisted in directing the city towards a new goal of building infrastructure and small growth in the city when the city was in decline. In the 70s and 80s, Tampa experienced the largest decline in population and ad valorem taxes. Tampa experienced challenging urban flights, which only began to be reversed in the mid-80s. Ron was an integral part of the rebirth of Tampa and played critical roles in each phase of the new Tampa. There was new Tampa with just vacant land then. And through Ron and Greco and the rest, they formed a new city in the city called New Tampa. I'm not saying we're all old, just that's newer than we are, that's all. And in doing all those things, he also worked on bringing in industries that relocated to the city of Tampa that were clean. He was an individual that never said no. He says, let's go do it. Tampa was on the move and was named one of 5 mega trend cities in the United States in that period of time that he was here. Ron and his leadership were an important part of it all. It's grateful and appreciation to Ron Rotella's dedication and commitment to the city and City Council's pleasure to present this commendation on the 27th day of March of 2025.
Whoops, my pants falling down. Family, friends, thank you for being here. Council members, thank you. I appreciate the distinction this morning. When I started with the city of Tampa, it was a different city. I started with Mayor Nick Nusio. Downtown on the channel, you had wooden docks, and you had homeless people living under the wooden docks. We put in a concrete seawall and did away with that. Mirabella's fishing fleet was downtown on the river. And we relocated the fishing fleet out to the 22nd Street Causeway. And then on the east side of the river in downtown, you had huge grain silos. And they took up the whole side of downtown Tampa. Well, we relocated the grain factories to east of Tampa, and I'll never forget that the rats that vacated those silos, they were as large as alley cats. They were huge because they fed on the grain 24 hours a day. And probably, I won't go into a lot of projects. We were very, very successful, but I will talk about one that changed the history of Tampa. A gentleman by the name of Jim Apthorpe, who worked for U.S. Homes, bought several hundred acres of property just outside the city limits. His intention was to build a number of subdivisions. Well, little did he find out that Hillsborough County could not provide the water and sewer service. They didn't have the capacity. So he met with Bob Martinez and I, and he said, listen, I'd like you guys to extend the water and sewer from the city to my development. So Bob was about to respond, and I nudged him, and I said, listen, we're assuming that our water and sewer departments can meet your demand, but let us verify that, let's meet next week. So we met the following week, and Jim Apthorpe was there, and his boss, and the general counsel for U.S. Homes. So Jim says, well, have you guys made a decision? He says, yes, we have. We'll go ahead and we'll extend the water and sewer to your development. Well, he didn't step out of his chair. He leaped out of his chair and he started yelling, this is nothing but blackmail. This is dirty blackmail. And the general counsel finally says, Jim, be quiet for a minute, please. Just sit down. So he sat down and he said, so let me ask the question straightforward. If we annex our land into the city of Tampa, there'll be no strings attached. And Bob Martinez says, no strings attached. We'll expedite the annexation into the city. And we did. And then what happened was all the developers and the property owners north of that and east and west said, well, wait a minute. Let's not wait until we have to do an annexation. Let's annex our property into the city now. So when we're ready to develop, the annexation process will be behind us, i.e. New Tampa. We were north of U.S. Homes project, and then east and west, all the way up to the Pasco County line. So that's how it happened, and it changed Tampa. So I want to thank you very much for your accommodation this morning. Thank you.
Ron, and I'm sorry to say that Representative Kathy Castor cannot be here, but she did send a thing from the Congress of the United States of America. I would like to extend my sincere appreciation for you for the decades of dedicated service to the city of Tampa and the West Shore community. Your visionary leadership, tireless advocacy, and unwavering commitment has been instrumental in shaping the growth and prosperity of our region. I congratulate you, the city of Tampa, for this commendation presented to you today. And also the driving force behind the West Shore Alliance when they were trying to create something and you were the leader of that creation. Look what happened. It became the mega #1, more likely at that time, in the United States of America. So all these things on behalf of the constituents of the 14th Congressional District, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude for many contributions, your legacy, and your felt of generosity, of genuine aspect for the city, and it's a better place because of you and your dedication and your service. Kathy Castor.
Thank you very much. And Kathy's mother was Senator Castor. Just a quick story. When we were going to do the area-wide DRI, it had to be approved by the state, and it had to be approved by the Community Affairs Committee. Well, there was a guy from Jacksonville that chaired the committee, and he was going to bottle the bill up and not let it out. So I was going to get up and say something, and Kathy says, so I stayed in my seat, and she called for recess, stepped outside for 15 minutes with the chairman. She came back in, sat down, and the chairman went ahead and made the motion to create the legislation for the area-wide DRI. I said to Kathy, Kathy, what did you do? I mean, Betty, so what did you do? She says, Ron, you don't want to know. So that's how that happened.
Well, this is also that everyone wants to know. The next one is that he also worked very diligently with the West Shore Alliance, and to echo what he's done and worked with, the West Shore Alliance is an area in the Tampa area, the north and the west part of the city, that has more than 12 million square feet of office space and 100,000 workers work in that area. So Ron was instrumental in working with the first individual that was hired by the area of the West Shore Alliance, and he did a fantastic job. And now he's doing a fantastic job of being with his wife and family. You're very lucky to be a man that you are. Lovely wife and your son, and we appreciate everything you've done for the city, and most of all, what you've done to make yourself known without trying to be known, because your hard work and labor has really, really done well for all of us. So we want to thank each and every one of you for being here, the city council, and it was 400,000 people, over 400,000 people living in the city of Tampa. However, we served water for over 700,000 people because of the annexation and the areas around the county. So all that, it happened because of yourself and the 7 mayors that you work with, and we want to congratulate you for who you've been and who you continue to be. Thank you very much for everything you've done.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you so much, Charlie.
Councilmember Vieira Henderson.
Thank you very much.
Council members, thank you.
Oh, and if I may, Mr. Rotella, I wanted to thank you, the work that you've done. I'm glad you mentioned Betty Castor. You worked in times with just amazing names here in the Hillsborough County, Tampa area. People like Betty Castor, people like Phyllis Basansky, mentioned Bob Martinez, council member Rudy Fernandez, so many others during that time who helped build our area. Obviously, I'm glad you mentioned New Tampa. I have the pleasure of representing there. I live in Hunters Green. I used to live in Tampa Palms. And, when y'all went out there and sent Lewis and Clark out there to build the Alaska of Tampa, we're certainly better for it. So, we're just glad that we can honor you for everything that you've done for our city. So thank you, sir.
New Tampa was an exciting annexation to the city. I'll tell you a quick story. Home Depot had a contract on a piece of property. We met with them, and one of the things they said, well, okay, but here's our sign. I said, well, that's not going to work. He said, what do you mean? He said, well, we have a very stringent sign ordinance out here in the New Tampa area, and you're going to have to amend your sign. I said, we're not amending our sign. This is our standard sign. We do it all over the country. I said, okay. So one of the people said, well, I guess the meeting's over. So I got up and I left. And their general counsel came and said, where are you going? I said, well, the meeting's over. He says, no, it's not over. They're bluffing. They're going to go with the project. They'll amend their sign. Don't worry about it. So I went back in, and of course they went ahead and did it. But the only comment I want to make is we treated Bruce B. Downs differently than the city treated Dale Mabry. Not every developer had a curb cut in and out of their property. We had key intersections where property owners and developers had to extend their roads alongside Bruce B. Downs to these intersections to get in and out. So we didn't have the traffic snarl, we didn't have the congestion, we didn't have the ugly signage with all those billboards. I think we did a good job in New Tampa.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Rotella, good morning. Mr. Rotella, hi. I want to say something to you. Good morning. I just really want to say thank you for the history lesson. I really appreciate that. As one of the newest council members, knowing history allows you to make good decisions even going forward. Darlene, if possible, I would love to have lunch with you and you tell a few more stories to me personally. That would be wonderful if you have the time. But I really do appreciate all the work that you've done and your contributions to the city of Tampa, and thank you for sharing it with us this morning.
Thank you very much. It was a distinct pleasure for me.
I just wanted to say thank you for all your years of service. Technically, we're not supposed to talk during these things, and so since a couple of people broke the rules, I break the rule too. But I just appreciate all the things you've done over the years, and hopefully you're writing a book or recording some of this down, because we've lost too many of your former colleagues. But I remember many things over the years that you helped do. But when Greco was mayor, you and another name we haven't mentioned is Fernando Noriega, the three of you guys were getting everything done in the city, and it was remarkable looking at the change and the pace. And we look at the economy in Tampa in just the last few years and all the changes that have happened. But as you briefly described, most of the building blocks of what's happened in the last 10 or 20 years happened because of what you all did in the 90s. So thank you, and also thank you for what you did at the West Shore Alliance. West Shore is going to continue to grow, and it's going to be another outstanding area because of the vision you set in place 20, 30 years ago.
You'll be happy to know that those rats you saved, their great-great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren are now dog-sized. They've morphed, and they're all living along Bayshore Boulevard in Hyde Park. So,
thank you very much.
If you could have gone back, we'd have appreciated not saving those rats.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Congratulations. We appreciate you very much. Thank you. All right. In just a moment, we'll have Councilmember Vieira presenting to Captain Kurt. Not Kirk, not Kirk. Yeah, he...
That's funny. Doing well. Good to see you, sir, buddy. My wife, Michelle. How are you?
No, my pleasure, yeah. Whenever. Need a haircut. Damn it.
I know a barber.
I'll stay away. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It's my great pleasure here today, sir, to honor for his 30 years of service to our city of Tampa through Tampa Police Department, Captain Kurt Rojka, who is here. He's also here with his wife, Michelle, who's here. And of course, Chief Burkaw is here to pay honor to this very good man. Like I said, Captain Rojka has served our city for 30 years in uniform through Tampa Police Department. He is known as a man of integrity, as a man of faith, as a man of community, as a man of family, and his dedication to a key number of programs here throughout his 3 decades here in the city of Tampa. First is the issue of prevention of crime and delinquency with our youth, something that's very, very close to this man's heart. Second is homeless services, something that then Chief Bennett championed almost 15 years ago in 2012, has been very, very close to Captain Rojka's heart. And last, something that we've dealt with him on, that I know is very close to City Council's heart and to the community's heart, is our mental health unit here in the city of Tampa, something that he championed, that Captain Rojka championed in the implementation of that. He's briefed us a few times here in Tampa City Council on it and is very, very passionate about that. What unites all these 3 areas that he has championed with Tampa Police Department is a real commitment to people, to human services, knowing that the fight against crime isn't just a fight against violent crime, it's also a fight on the causes of violent crime. When I was doing research on you, I found a potentially tragic incident that happened in one of our schools in North Tampa where you almost had a Columbine situation out there. And you highlighted, sir, in 2012, the mental health component of that. So again, time and time again with Tampa Police Department, Captain Rojka would see how the human element would intertwine with crime. In terms of his background, he is a Tampa native, and like many of our Tampa police officers and Tampa firefighters, he is a veteran, having served the United States Army for 4 years, and 4 years also in the National Guard. He is very, very active in our community as a churchgoer, as a good Southern Baptist. And also does wonderful work with an organization that I've seen him in through the Children's Network of Hillsborough County, something that's very close to his heart. Again, dealing with human welfare, an organization that promotes adoption and foster parenting. And again, the things that unite all of these things is Captain Rojka's dedication to human welfare. So, sir, for your many years of service, both in the military as well as 30 years here for the city of Tampa, we just wanted to honor you, sir, because we appreciate you. We appreciate your character, your integrity. So for that and so much more, sir, we are here to honor you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. And before, I know Chief Burkaw would like to say words about this good man. Go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, Councilman Vieira. Yeah, I mean, you highlighted so many things, but our wellness program, taking care of our officers, would not be what it is today if it wasn't for Captain Rojka. Our officers are better equipped to take care of their mental health needs, their physical needs, their financial needs, because of his initiative in starting that program. And that's laying the foundation for generations to come. And you hit so many other highlights. There was one thing I wanted to add. You talk about ending your career on a highlight. So we had 2 hurricanes back to back, as you're aware of, and we had to call in resources from other agencies across the state to help. Hundreds of officers. And we were, what captain can help us with this logistical nightmare? Not only did he volunteer for it, he made it so impressive that all these other agencies were like, wow, Tampa's got their act together, they're so organized, and that's all because of this captain here. So you've done so much for this organization that we're just so indebted to you, and the impact that you leave will be for legacies to come. So congratulations.
Thank you, Chief. Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
And sir, on behalf of grateful Tampa City Council and obviously grateful Tampa Police Department, because a lot of your colleagues are here, sir, we would like to honor you. Here you go, sir. And if you'd like to speak, you may. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Vieira, City Council, thank you. Chief Burkaw, you and I have been friends, colleagues, and you've been my boss for many years. It's always been a pleasure, sir, to work with you. And to all of our staff here, I appreciate all your support over the years and your friendship. Thank you so much. And I will tell you, when I started in policing in 1995, I hear Mr. Rotella speak of New Tampa. Home Depot was not there. And it was just, I think it was Hunter's Green, Pebble Creek, and Tampa Palms. That was it. There was no businesses to speak of up there, and there were 2 officers that patrol regularly, and that was it. So we've seen it develop quite a bit up there, but I am so grateful for the opportunity I've had at the Tampa Police Department. You highlighted the behavioral health unit. I would like to say that's one of the things that I'm very proud of that we were able to accomplish, not just because of what I did with it, because that's really the small piece of it. It was the fact that the city was willing to take on that project and house it with the police department. And then for it to carry on through the legacy of others who will come behind and make that grow, that is just, it's really a special project that I got to be a part of early on. So I'm eternally grateful to the city to have been a police officer here. If I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't change a thing. It was probably the best career I could ever ask for. And so thank you for the opportunity. Sir, thank you for the commendation today. It means the world to me. And Chief, thank you for everything you've done for me and all the support over the years. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Our last ceremonial item will be to honor the purchasing department. Councilman Miranda, go ahead.
Honorable Chair, Tampa City Council, honorable members of Tampa City Council, again, it's my pleasure to be before this honorable group. Today is a day that we call Purchasing Department Staff Designating Purchasing Month throughout the country. And we're so proud of what we've done in the Purchasing Department. Deanne Forgart just took over this about a year ago or so, and time does fly because it seemed like it was yesterday. But she took over another individual who had done an outstanding job, and herself is doing that same outstanding job for the people of the city of Tampa and all around the other communities. And it's my pleasure today to present this commendation to behalf of all the citizens of the city of Tampa, and what you all continue to do on a daily basis that are you not recognized for, and this is your month getting recognized for what you've done, not only for the city, but for anybody who's understanding what purchasing is and the stress that you're under, and the commodity, the changing of prices, and the changing of the venue, and the product changes, and what do you do then? And don't go buy eggs out of real high. But the City of Tampa City Council presents this commendation on behalf of all of the 7 council members and all over 400,000 people. In the City Purchase Department, I received an Annual Achievement of Excellence Procurement Award from the National Purchasing Institute for 18 consecutive years. That's not somebody we hire, that's somebody who comes and checks on what we've done. We, meaning your department and under your leadership. And we're so proud of you, and what you've done here is create an ambience, a future ambience for anyone who's going to follow you, that those shoes may not be the right size, but you got to step forward and do what? The job that all of you do for the city of Tampa. Because you don't make noise, but you do a lot of purchasing and save a lot of money for the city of Tampa. We're very proud of that. So we, the City Council of Tampa, has previously issued this commendation to the Purchasing Department yearly for the outstanding service to the city and all departments. You work with every department in the city, and whatever they need, you're the go-to person. There's a staff that does the work and make sure that it's done, and it's not easy. One day I wish I could show everybody in the city of Tampa what you have to go through on a daily basis to get things that you really need in an economy that's thriving. And sometimes now the tariff is going to go up maybe 25%, but not in Tampa. So I wanted to make this commendation presented to the leader, the administrator, Deanne Forgart, for the outstanding staff and the work that you've done throughout this year that we've had you in charge and all the members of your staff. And I'm sure you'll go a little bit more elaborate on what you do and how you do it and how much the costs have gone up. Thank you so much for being who you are, all of you here in this staff and this committee.
Thank you. Deanna Faggart, Director of Purchasing. I'm accepting this commendation excuse me, on behalf of the staff who do an amazing job. With us here, we've got Cheryl Aldridge in the back, who is our procurement systems manager. We've got David, who is our interim procurement manager, and we have the staff that support you all every day here with us. This team puts out about 200 solicitations a year. We come before council, I think about 180 times a year or something. So we're busy every day. This agenda alone, we have 28 items. So, you know, they're a hardworking staff. You know, everything that we do is in the sunshine, is transparent. And, you know, we're accountable for all of that. And, you know, we're working hard to make sure that you all have that faith in us. As Charlie mentioned, as Councilman Miranda mentioned, we've achieved the Excellence in Procurement Award from NIG, or from the, I'm sorry, it's from the National Institute of Procurement. 18 years in a row, and every year they change the criteria for that. It's not, you know, a one and done, like you don't just keep submitting the same application. Every single year they change the criteria, and the purpose of that is to maintain those best practices, to make sure that we're following the best procedures and all of that. So we just appreciate the commendation. We appreciate the acknowledgement of Purchasing Month, which, you know, falls in March every year. And we appreciate that everything that you all do every day to support us as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, congratulations to you and your department, everybody here, everybody with you, besides you, behind you. Thank you for all your hard work. Because it's not easy. It's not easy, and we appreciate you very, very much. Congratulations. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll just take a few moments here as folks step out. We're going to go into public comment. I'm going to take the 3 registered speakers first, the on-agenda item speakers, and the off-agenda item speakers. Our first speaker online is Mr. Michael Randolph, followed by Carol Ann Bennett and Miss Adrian Rodriguez. And are they all?
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Randolph. Please state your name.
Yes, for sure. My name is Michael Randolph. I'm with the West Tampa CDC. I want to start off by sharing with you that I'm honored to be selected as the newest member of the Board of Supervisors with the Encore Community Development District. Thank you, Leroy Moore, for recommending me. Then I want to talk about the CRA in Athens. During Sunday's community update, Representative Hart shared her effort to extend the timeline for projects for the CRA. Unfortunately, it failed. We must prepare for the possibility of losing the CRA. In that event, we must embrace the out-of-the-box thinking and turn to alternative initiatives to drive growth. Our most powerful local tool is the Community Benefit Agreement known as the CBA. By utilizing the CBA, we can develop affordable housing, expanded economic opportunity, and implement innovative solutions that address our needs. A great example of this innovation is the West Tampa CDC model. Through the CBA, the West Tampa CDC will establish a West Tampa Technology and Wealth Building and Job Creation Center, which is expected to create over 30 resident-owned businesses and 15 to 20 new jobs over the next 5 years to increase economic opportunity. By incorporating this initiative, we ensure that we provide assistance to anyone from the dropout to the college graduate. West Tampa CDC update. The West Tampa CDC is also pioneering the integration of artificial intelligence to maximize its impact. This transformative approach will allow a lean staff of 3 to handle the workload typically by 10 employees. By leveraging artificial intelligence, we can achieve exceptional performance, cost efficiency, and operational improvements. This innovative model streamlines the process, boosts productivity, and empowers community. And finally, I want to give a shout out to Ron and his services to the city of Tampa. I met Ron about 20 years ago when we both served on the University of Florida certification program in real estate development. I learned a lot from him in terms of negotiation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Randolph. Carol Ann Bennett, Adrienne Rodriguez. Carol Ann, if you're on, please state your name. Go ahead. If you would unmute yourself.
Hi, my name is Carol Ann Bennett. I'm a lifelong resident of Tampa. For the last 7 years, almost every community gathering that I've attended, whether it was around a kitchen table or coffee with Castor or neighborhood association meeting, eventually someone ends up saying, we don't have sidewalks in our neighborhood, so we have to walk in the street. The code requires that the city charges their average cost of installing a sidewalk for the in lieu of fee. That should be automatic, period. We haven't raised the in lieu of fee for 15 years because for some reason, city council needs to vote on it. And that ends up getting politicized. It ends up going back and forth. There's hemming and hawing. City resources are wasted. People's time is wasted. The code is clear on the intent. It should just be automatic. When builders say that increasing the fee to the city's cost is going to increase housing, that's ridiculous. Builders charge market rate, period. They don't, if they say $500 on the fee, they don't charge $500 less for the house. If they can reduce the cost of building a house, it increases their profit, period. It's all market driven. Who do they think pays if they don't? It's not Santa Claus. The city has to pay. And where does their money come from? One way or another, it's the residents who have to pay. And it's more expensive for the city to install sidewalks, so residents end up paying the highest possible price when builders don't install sidewalks. Builders just have to ask themselves one question. Is it more than $220 a foot to install a sidewalk or less? If it's less, then they build the sidewalk and they save money. If it's more than $220, they pay the $220 and they save money. They never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, pay higher than what their cost is to install a sidewalk. Tampa excels at killing our pedestrians and cyclists. We're the best at it. If killing people is our goal, then we're doing everything right. If saving lives is our goal, we must change everything we're doing. Cars aren't mowing people down on sidewalks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Adrienne Rodriguez is our last online speaker, then we'll go to the in-person on-agenda items. Adrienne Rodriguez, if you're on, please state your name.
Good morning, Council.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'd like to speak this morning on cemeteries. What is a cemetery? Cemetery serves as a final resting place for the deceased, providing a space for burial and remembrance. Over time, cemeteries in Hillsborough County have evolved into privately owned businesses, schools, shopping centers, and yes, new cemeteries. Woodlawn Cemetery is under threat of development once more, as you are likely aware. The owner of Showman's Rest has put the same parcel that was saved in 2022. It's been put up for sale. Now, Council, it's a cemetery. It's a 40-acre cemetery. It's been a cemetery since 1988. We Tampeños have always considered all 40 acres to be a cemetery, whether it's Beth Israel, Centro Asturiano, Showman's Rest. It is all a cemetery. According to available documentation, in 1900, the northwest section of the property was reserved for black burials. In 1951, 63 years after Woodlawn opened, the northwest section of the property was purchased, hence Showman's Rest. If this parcel for sale is zoned residential, then why has Showman's Rest not paid taxes in 5.5 decades? Well, because it's a cemetery, and they're exempt from paying taxes if it's a cemetery. So When it's convenient for the owner, it's a cemetery, and when she wants to sell it, it's not a cemetery. On February 24th, 2022, Tampa City Council voted unanimously in opposition to the rezoning of the parcel. Woodlawn was saved, and we were so grateful. In 2023, the Green Team had grandeur illusions of turning the parcel into a memorial park with benches, winding sidewalks, newly planted trees. But at the urging of the community, that project halted several days later. So here we go again, 2025. Several months ago, Councilman Carlson had a fantastic idea for the city to allocate funds to pay for ground penetrating radar scans, and if bodies, so that we will all have access to the results, and if bodies are confirmed, the city would purchase the property or land. Please consider purchasing the parcel at Showman's Rest. The city has the money. We had the money for Hannah Avenue, Riverwalk, Franklin Street. The city does have the money, and our past should be as important as our future because history matters. So in all fairness to the owner who has every right to sell her land, we're not against the sale of it, but we are against any type of development on sacred ground. Let's show respect to clarify Henry Ruiz, aka Ted Webb, and all buried in the 40 acres.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Cemetery.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. All right, the in-person speakers are going to be Beth Alden, Humara Afzal, Stephen Michelini for on-agenda items. Yes, ma'am. Good morning. Please state your name.
Good morning, Beth Alden, a volunteer with Walk Bike Tampa. And I have a letter from the Walk Bike Tampa board, which I'll provide to the clerk. Walk Bike Tampa is a nonprofit, all-volunteer organization focused on promoting safe, connected routes for people walking or riding a bike throughout the city. The Walk Bike Tampa board urges you to pass the resolution, it's number 99 on your agenda, establishing the updated fee for payment to the Sidewalk Trust Fund when installation of a sidewalk is not practical for new development. Updates to sections 22103 and 22104 of City Code made in 2021 significantly strengthen builder requirements for installation of sidewalks, which make our communities safer and more welcoming to all members of the community and increase property values and help local businesses. But the in lieu fee, designed to provide exceptions to sidewalk installation for challenging locations, has not been updated since 2010. At $29 per linear foot, the fee does not reflect the actual cost of installation of a sidewalk. Instead, increasing the proposed in lieu of fee to $220 per linear foot covers the city's actual costs for sidewalk construction and will expedite reducing the many miles of gaps in Tampa's sidewalk network. And if I may, I'd like to add that I personally installed a sidewalk when I built an accessory dwelling unit on my property. It was part of the last gap on my block. And afterwards, my neighbor who uses a rollator used that sidewalk to get down the block to her brother's house back and forth. And I didn't even realize that she was going out into the road to get around my property before I installed that sidewalk. And it was a very minor cost as part of my overall project. And I'm so glad to be part of completing that sidewalk gap. We ask Tampa City Council to approve this fee increase to provide the city with the resources necessary to improve the safety of our neighborhoods. Thank you for your attention and support of this critical financial need.
Thank you very much. Humara Afzal, Steve Michelini, Stephanie Pointer. Thank you very much, ma'am. If you provide it to the attorney, the letter, we'll give it to the clerk and distribute it to council members. Yes, ma'am.
Hi,
Good
Humara
morning.
Afzal. I love the story that she just told. I guarantee you there are thousands of stories all over the city about how things like adding a sidewalk will literally change somebody's life. First, I want to talk about item 91, the parking ordinance. When I first saw that, I was hopeful that might be a way to include some elements to keep drivers from parking in the bike lanes. I sent an email. I did get some prompt responses, and unfortunately can't do some of the things due to Florida statute. I will say that I am frustrated that the focus of the new parking ordinance is on capturing more revenue, and that there really does not seem that there was a conscious effort to try to also see if there are ways to make Tampa safer for pedestrians and bicyclists in updating that ordinance. But I am encouraged that some of the city staff said that they're working on some other ideas to achieve that, and I look forward to hearing more about it. Meanwhile, I encourage you to take some of the new revenue that you will get from the use of new technology in that ordinance, such as camera enforced parking, and use it for things like adding more signage, don't park in the bike lane, and also replace bollards to keep cars out of the protected bike lanes. I emphasize the protected bike lanes because they're an important entry point for bicyclists and families. People feel safe biking in them, and it's an important entry point. I bike on neighborhood streets all the time, but I've been biking for more than 50 years and I feel comfortable doing that. But it's just really crazy that we have these amazing protected bike lanes that are not actually protected. Bikes, why are bikes important? They get cars off of the road, number one. There is no way that you will reduce congestion without getting cars off the road. So for every time a person can take a trip by a bus, by a bike, by walking, that is a car off the road. They're better for the environment. They're a lot cheaper than a car. Maintaining bike infrastructure is also a lot cheaper than building and maintaining roads. With my bike fully loaded with groceries, it's about 150 pounds, including me. The average mid-size SUV is about 5,000 pounds. So which one do you think puts more wear and tear on the road? There's also health benefits, builds community, all kinds of things like that. Item 99, please vote yes. Tampa desperately needs more sidewalks. But again, the city needs to get more creative in finding ways to keep people from parking on the sidewalks. No point in building all those wonderful new sidewalks if they're just going to be covered with cars, boats, trailers, porta potties, all of these other things. Expecting people to call in every violation. I call parking all the time, they're very responsive. But expecting people to call in every violation is simply not going to work. I encourage city staff. I'm sure city staff can come up with lots of creative ways. Things like signage. So keep stuff off the sidewalks. Vote yes, though.
Thank you. Stephen Michelini, Stephanie Pointer, Jason Ashton. Good morning, sir. Please state your name.
Good morning, Council. Steve Michelini. I'm here regarding the in lieu fee regarding sidewalks. And I've looked at the analysis that the city had given me regarding their costs, and they have included a significant number of things that probably you shouldn't include. They also were analyzing 800 linear feet on one project, 1,500 linear feet on another one, and 1,750 feet on another one. The in lieu fee is for like 50-foot lots and 60-foot lots. You can't compare those costs. And let me show you what the city actually is paying for sidewalks. And this is from the analysis that they provided to me. Their actual costs are $63.25 and or 97 for 6-inch, $97.75. This came from the analysis that they provided to me. Here, here's the links, 800 linear feet, 1,500 linear feet, 1,750 linear feet. A typical small scales project is 50 to 100 feet maximum. I also have a number of bids that were provided that are actual construction bids. These are what the city based their analysis on appears to be estimates from an engineering company. But these are actual costs for projects that went in this past year. $23 a linear foot. This one is, again, if you think about a lot that's 50 feet wide, 20 feet, 24 feet of that comes out as of the driveway. So that remains 30 feet, not these 1,500 linear feet projects that you're seeing. This one is from Sterling Bay, Gary Brown, 3,300 or 33.95 per linear foot. Here's another one, $1,210. And let me show you what they've included in here. Tree removal, clearing and grubbing, fire hydrants. Anyway, here, you can have a look. I've highlighted this. Thermoplastic, utility fixtures, tree protection, usually the tree in lieu fee is used when you have a grand tree or something like that that you can't remove. Try going to the variance board and tell them you want to remove a tree because of a sidewalk. It doesn't happen. We need to compare like costs to like costs. We'll be happy to work with the city staff to come up
Thank you
with
very much, sir.
an analysis of a real value.
Thank you, sir. Stephanie
We don't have any
Pointer.
problem with passing,
Thank
going
you,
and
sir.
changing
Thank
it.
you, sir. Thank you, sir. Stephanie Pointer, Jason Ashton, Linda Ponticelli. Good morning, ma'am. Please state your name.
Good morning, Stephanie Pointer. I'd like to point out that Mr. Michelini showed you a bunch of developers who actually installed sidewalks. Not my problem. That's a great thing. They should all install the sidewalks unless they can't. And then they pay the city to do it. You know why the city has to pay more? Because they have to do all of those crazy things in order to do it. So let's be real here. You can pay the cheap price and do it yourself, or you can pay the more expensive price and let the city do it for you. Sorry, not sorry. It doesn't make any sense. And of course, I pulled this data exactly from the last time the sidewalk stuff came. And so what we would have to pay out of pocket, the city of Tampa, citizens, the people who did not, ask for a new sidewalk or that we need new sidewalks, the difference between what was paid in and what was paid out was like $1.9 million that the citizens would be paying out of pocket. I forgot about that spreadsheet until I got up here and saw Mr. Michelini put his up. Development can be done well, and it can be done half-baked, and that's me putting it nicely. I'd offer that number 16 and 17 on your agenda also show half-baked development. That is there are all these lots that are not taken care of by people who tore down homes so that they could sell the vacant lots. And so then they neglect the vacant lots over and over and over again, and the city has to go out and mow them, pick up garbage, clean up after them. And that is the perfect example of why this is a problem. We have great developers in the city who do sidewalks every time they build something. They do the stuff that they're supposed to do. They work around trees. They figure out solutions to problems. And then we have developers who are lazy and want to pawn it off on the city and on the citizens. We pay taxes. Yes, we pay those. But we need sidewalks around schools. We need sidewalks in lots and lots of places every single day. I just sat back there in the back row and answered an email from somebody who I've never met before who contacted them because they want sidewalks. Well, we don't have any money to pay for sidewalks because these folks who can't put a sidewalk in a particular location are not paying in squat. Okay? So let's get over it. And let's talk about a realistic situation. 290 linear feet on Commerce Street, which is where West Shore turns to go to Picnic Island. 300 trucks every single day drive around that curve. But yet the developer who filed to live local, they can do whatever they want, said, oh, we can't put in the sidewalks there. Why not? Because they know that, oh yeah, they might have to pay whatever Mr. Michelini showed you for their sidewalks, but we have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars more. Why do we gift them their sidewalks? Why would you give away our tax dollars to these people because they want to do a half-assed job? Have a good day. Thank you.
Jason Ashton, Linda Ponticelli, Robert Ponticelli.
Are we allowed to switch?
You want to come up together? Okay. Who are you? John Ashton? Jason Ashton? Come on, John Ashton. Okay, come on up.
We're going to let Linda go.
Is it okay if I go first?
We're just going to switch.
Switch?
Are you Linda Ponticelli?
Yes.
Okay, so.
We're
all right.
speaking on the same item.
Same item.
Yeah, you each get 3 minutes.
Yeah, I'd like to have her go.
Can I go first?
Oh,
No,
okay,
just-
all
I
right,
have the
all right, go
history
ahead,
of
go
the-
ahead. Linda Ponticelli.
Okay, thanks.
I get stage fright.
Okay, my name is Linda Ponticelli. City Council, thank you for hearing me out. I am here to plead with you, along with some of my neighbors, for assistance with my Riverside Heights alley between the 800 block of Braddock and Alfred Street. When my new house was being built, my husband and I were informed that any new build with an alley access needed to have the garage off the alley. That was not our preference due to the difficulties and the inconvenience, but we liked the lot and were led to believe that the city would pave it like all the other alleys in the neighborhood. This is a picture of the alley north of us, which currently has one garage access. This is the alley south of us, which has two garage accesses. And this is our alley, which currently has 8 garage accesses. If we lived in a $100,000 home in rural Florida, this could be acceptable, but we live in $1 million home in the city of Tampa, and this is how we have to access our house. I've tried for 20 months to have the city of Tampa address this issue. I've created tickets, I've called departments, and I've gotten no response. When we first moved into the house, our alley was about 1.5 inches to the top of our driveway. Now, it's almost 4 inches because the sand is eroding daily with all the traffic. The city did create a service request, but I was informed that it is in referred status with no update for our timeline for the work to be done. I also want to show you the progression of the erosion. So this is a Google Maps picture of the entrance to the alley in 2023. Not too bad. Then this is the entrance in December of 2024, and this is in March 2025. So as you can see, it's rapidly eroding. I also want to say that my home and the one next door to me, which Jason actually lives in, were built on what was a single lot. We currently pay nearly 5 times the property taxes of the owners of the original house that was on our lot. Because we followed the rules, we're the ones paying the price. If you could somehow make this a priority to give me and my immediate alley neighbors the quality of life that my other neighbors have, it would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you very much. Jason Ashton, Robert Ponticelli. Crystal Richardson, Pastor Williams Montesma.
I'd like to thank the council for listening to us today.
Sure, please
I'm
state
just
your name.
really following up on what Linda said.
State your name, sir.
Sorry, Jason Ashton.
Go ahead, sir.
Just following up on what Linda said. If we were in the situation originally, we would have all opted to have the garages in the front. We understand that the ordinance has changed, and we have, I think, 8 homes under construction on our street right now. A majority of those that are on the same side are going to have the ability to put in driveways and garages in the front. It doesn't change their visibility or the aesthetics of what that alleyway looks like. While they won't be coming and going, what is happening is the trucks that are doing the building are coming and going every day. And as a result, this alleyway is continuing to erode, it's continuing to sink, and it's just causing all kinds of problems. If this was an aesthetic issue, obviously a different conversation, we're probably not here, but this is more a safety issue, in addition to being a problem for the homeowners. As Linda referenced, our tax liabilities have gone up considerably, and as a result, we're not getting what I would think is day one maintenance or access for this alleyway. More importantly, on a personal level, I have a toddler, I have a 3-year-old. Every time I open the garage, I'm horrified because anybody who's had a toddler, they like to move fast. Trying to keep up and trying to get him to look both ways is impossible with these large trucks coming and going. So we're just looking for what we were told originally, that this was going to be a maintained access road, maintained alleyway, and to have this thing paved. Not sure if we have the funds available, but if we could find a way to work with the Department of Mobility to access some of these funds and get a basic paving job, if not doing it the correct way, it would be not only beneficial to the neighborhood, it's beneficial to the city, because as I continue to look at the erosion, and as Linda pointed out, in just a year, you've got considerable erosion. This is going to continue to be a problem, and because it is city property, it's going to fall back on the city, not to mention our homes are going to be continued at risk as this continues. So anything we could do to find the funds would be greatly appreciated, helpful, and as far as I think a lot of us are concerned, it should happen because that's what we were told when we were building originally. We would never have opted to have a detached garage in the back way.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Chief
you.
Bennett, would you be able to get their information before they leave? He did? Okay. Oh, okay. Very good. Robert Ponticelli, Crystal Richardson, Pastor Frank Williams.
Hi, my name is Robert Ponticelli. My wife and I have lived in Tampa for the past 20 years. Despite my accent, we've been here. We consider Tampa our home. We've owned 9 properties in South Howard area and in the Channel District during that time, 9 properties. Some as investments, some as we've lived at. We've recently moved to the Riverside Heights neighborhood and built a single-family home. Just to maybe add a few different things, on our block that faces the alley we're talking about, there's 11 total homes. 6 of them will have a build date of 2023 or newer. So there's 4 under construction now, but 6. That in the entire Riverside Heights area. My wife and I exercise and we'll jog and we'll walk daily. I don't think there's 6 of 11 on one side of the street anywhere else in Riverside Heights. So we actually have a really busy, a lot of activity going on. We have a lot of new homes going. And as I think my wife pointed out, that's good from a revenue standpoint. So we're hoping that maybe you can help folks and find us some money for this. The other thing I want to add is with all the new buildings that are going, even the ones with the front-facing, the new homes with the front-facing garages, we have 2 of the new ones and 1 of the existing ones have an ADU unit, which is on the back. I'm guessing that the access point, although I don't know, they're still under construction, is going to be through this alley. So we're thinking there's going to be a heightened, increased level of traffic. Also, the neighborhood's really changing. Most of the homes, when we moved there a couple of years ago, went in the $300,000 and $400,000 range. Right now, our home was nearly $1 million when we finished it. The cheap homes are like $1.2 million. The home directly across the street from us on the 800 block of Braddock just sold for $2.4 million. A home on Adderley this week, which is 1 block north of us, just closed for $1.4 million. So it's really transitioning from what may have looked like a middle-class neighborhood maybe 20, 30, 40 years ago. It's actually becoming like an upscale neighborhood. So it's kind of unique. The other thing I'd say, we were there building our house. We didn't buy it pre-built, but the home next door where Jason lives was being pre-built. I had at least a half a dozen people that were looking at that house. My wife and I are outside working a lot in our yard. Came to us and say, hey, what do you think of the neighborhood? And, you know, we tried to be positive on it. At least 6 of them said they couldn't put an offer in even though they loved the house because they were concerned about the alley. So we're also concerned about our property value. In the neighborhood's transition, and we actually become quite embarrassed when we have visitors come because they come and they look and they say, oh, geez, you guys got a beautiful house. Well, when are you finishing out back? And it just doesn't seem right. And we're hoping with all the new builds, there's more money.
Thank you very much, sir. Crystal Richardson, Pastor Williams, Montesnot, and our final speaker is Robin Lockett. Yes, ma'am, please state your name.
Hi, my name is Crystal Richardson. Just to piggyback on the last 3, same subject. I'm a native of Tampa, born and raised. I'm a local real estate agent. The developers that he was just speaking about on Adderley, we actually represent those sales. So very familiar with Riverside Heights and the growth that our community has. They have lived here for much longer. We bought our house actually this past December, and we bought it because of the investment for the mother-in-law suite and being able to have that as a short-term rental, which our parking is all through the back. We're fixing up our section by putting mulch in and making it nice and feasible as a parking area. But the drive in from either end, I have a low vehicle that I will not drive down that alleyway because of the potholes. I think our section is probably the worst of the area. As she showed earlier, you've got asphalt on both ends, but again, it really is becoming an actual issue. We have new construction on both sides. The construction trucks, I mean, there's concrete being poured today. It's getting out of control, to be honest. I walk my dog down there every day and I gotta get a new fresh pair of white sneakers every time because it's just disaster. But hopefully we can find a solution. There are more neighbors moving into that street. Like he said, there's actually 20 properties that share that alley. More than half of them have driveway access in the backside. So they're all in trucks. Unfortunately, all the cars are not really doing well, but hopefully we can find a solution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Pastor Williams?
Yeah. I'm gonna let him go ahead.
Okay.
Uhuru and tis not interesting conversation. Don't want to go off on a tangent because I'm here to talk about child support, Tampa, Florida. But if y'all so rich and y'all so wealthy and y'all got these homes, and if who living in a $100,000 home is whatever, don't deserve city services, why don't y'all just band together and fix your own homes? Fix your own street. I fix things around my home and my neighborhood all the time. And I'm not that rich, okay? Economically disadvantaged. But what I'm here to talk about is none of that stupidness. I'm here to talk about child support. Yeah. The Social Security Administration, State of Florida, and other child support enforcement, intricately interconnected entities, are using the federally and/or privately funded Title 4D child support program for financially incentivized purposes beyond child support enforcement, collection, recovery, distribution, sanction, and punishment. Some of the alternative purposes of the child support program appears to be low-level eugenics, ethnic cleansing, population control, reproduction deterrent, self-induced Negro genocide by means of African American women utilize and legalize abortion options at a rate 5 times higher than that of North Americans or white women, slow Negro genocide, racial or skin color discrimination, rights violations, reinstitution of various forms of chattel slavery, indentured servitude, debtors' prisons, black codes, Jim Crow laws, grandfather clauses, Ku Klux Klan, Daughters of the Confederacy, Black Legion, sharecropping, peonage, convict leasing, black designer laws, and active participation in the modern-day prison industrial complex via the criminalization of poverty and the Title 4D wing of the institution of coercion called the Social Security Administration. The Social Security Administration, Title 4D, and the Florida Department of Revenue Child Support Enforcement Program are prime candidates for a class action lawsuit. The Florida Department of Revenue Child Support Enforcement Program, along with the State of Florida Office of the Assistant Attorney General, clerks of courts, chief judges, individual lower tribunal judges, magistrates, hearing officers, assistant attorney generals, and any DOR, CSE employee operates with a degree of confidence and certainty that it is absolutely and positively nothing that any poor and working class deadbeat parent can possibly do about their family rights being violated. The DOR blatant rights violations against suspecting or unsuspecting parents, especially if most of those violated individuals or respondents were not represented by legal counsel. Thus, it's a greater possibility that if any legal contradictions are uncovered in the future within the respondent's child support administrative or judicial child support cases, those newly discovered violations, irrespective of how gross, will have minimal effect on any previous administrative or judicial decisions or court orders and will be barred by statutory time limitations.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
And Pastor Williams.
Hello, my name is Pastor Frank Williams. Located at, I was located on 1112 East Scott Street, but guy come in there, called himself on to purchase my church, and haven't given me a brown penny. So once y'all get one of these letters here, try to see what you can do for me. I ain't nothing but a citizen of the United States of America. That's what I thought I was. But you know what? I got this here in the mail, This must be was talking about West Tampa instead of East Tampa. Help shape East Tampa future. I'm gonna read it to you. The East Tampa Community Redevelopment, CRA, is updating its community redevelopment plan, and we need your input. They must be talking about West Tampa. They don't care about nothing about us in East Tampa. All we got to do is just live and die. But we have to understand what you're doing for the people of East Tampa is what they're doing for people in West Tampa. Now, it's been, the mayor put so much money in her budget for West Tampa, over billions and billions of dollars. In East Tampa, she won't put a damn thing in there. We got that Jackson House right there. Yes, should have had 100 citation on it. It ain't got the first citation on it. Let the code enforcement should have y'all to tear it down. What is it sitting up there for? And they should build some nice homes over there for homeless people, really. But we don't care. People that are not able to put out money like you all are, you don't care nothing about it. But we have to understand, we're citizens and we're human beings of the United States of America. And we should be respected as that, whether y'all like it or not. God is the one that created us. And he did a good job of creating a lot of y'all, because we do look like a human being. At least we ain't crawling around like no rat. And we got to thank God for his creation and give him all the praises and all the glory. I want to thank y'all for letting me get a. You got some time?
Yes.
Okay, give each one of them one, please. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just want y'all to know that we're not trying to be hard on y'all, but y'all are hard on us. Y'all don't want to do nothing for us. But we got to keep praying, trusting the Lord. Everything gonna work out in our favor. And this one of y'all workers here, Miss Johnson here, she's a good person. She treat me right. And I thank God for her. And don't imitate her treating me right. Let me sit down.
Thank you very much. Our last speaker is Ms. Robin Lockett. Thank you very much. Good morning, ma'am. Please state your name.
Robin Lockett. Good morning. First, I want to say that I'm excited about the hurricane relief program that was launched this week. $3.2 million to help citizens that were impacted by the hurricane. So I'm happy that that is up and going. Second of all, there's a lot of conversation about sidewalks today. We have to resolve it, right? With all the, especially when we have something to do with the building and we have control over including whether a builder does X, Y, Z. So I think we do need sidewalks. Schools need sidewalks. All of these large subdivisions are going up and no sidewalks. So that should be an automatic thing when we're talking about all of this building that we are allowing to happen in the city of Tampa. I'm still talking about the Yellow Jackets. I want the Yellow Jackets to be made whole. Whole is, if they had 2 fields in West Tampa and a building, they should have 2 fields across from that cemetery and a building. They had a concession stand and a building. That is very, very important. And I'm just making it real clear. In regards to the cosmetic things, because I drive by there and I see that they are doing things, but we want a building. Coach Wright has made it clear that he wants his building back. That's making it whole, because that's what they had at the prior field. So whatever has to be done, and if he's doing handshakes because he trusted the administration prior to you guys, that handshake is saying, and I've heard them say in meetings that we're going to make the Yellow Jackets whole, right? So that's what whole means to us, that they have a working concession stand and a building. Or you could put the building, their offices on top of that concession stand, but they want a building. So thank you for your time.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. That concludes public comment. We will now go to any requests by the public for reconsideration of legislative matters. I see no one. Let's go to the consent agenda. Councilmember Vieira, you have public safety 4 through 10.
So move.
We have a motion from Councilmember Vieira. We have a second from Councilmember Clendenin. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Councilmember Henderson, you're the
Yes.
chair for Neighborhood and Community
Yes,
Affairs.
Chair. I move, well, before I move, I just want to speak on item 13, which is the $103,000 from the NCAA Nonprofit Association for the basketball tournament that's coming here. They're going to upgrade the equipment at the former Boys and Girls Club. It's actually called the Riverfront Recreation Center at 1301 North Boulevard, along with the decor of the 2025 Women's Final Four basketball tournament. So excited to be welcoming them to town. I move items 11 through 25 for Neighborhood and Community Affairs.
We have a motion from Councilmember Henderson, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Councilmember Hurtak.
Yes, I move items 26 through 47.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second from Councilmember Clendenin. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Councilmember Miranda, Finance Committee.
Chairman, I move items 48 through 51.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second from Councilmember Clendenin. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Councilmember Carlson.
I move 52 through 70.
We have a motion from Councilmember Carlson, second from Councilmember Clendenin. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And Councilmember Clendenin, Mobility and Asset Management.
I move items 71 through 74.
We have a motion from Councilmember Clendenin, second from Councilmember Vieira. All in favor? Aye. Can we get a motion to move 93 and 94? We have a motion from Councilmember Henderson, second from Councilmember Clendenin. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. We need to set a few items for public hearings, 75, 76, and 77. Who would like to make that motion? We have a motion from Councilmember Miranda setting 75, 76, and 77. Do we have a second? Second from Councilmember Clendenin. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, we're going to go to second readings. These are let's get a motion to open the 10 o'clock and 10 o'clock public hearing from Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilmember Vieira. All in favor? Aye. All
Mr.
right.
Chair?
Yes, sir.
You want to let, I see we have some folks from the strategy. You want to let them know we moved their resolution this time?
Yeah, the Strats is all set, sir. Thank you very much. All right. Okay, we have a motion to open the 10 a.m. public hearings. If you're going to speak on these items, which are 78 through 87, please stand, raise your right hand, and we'll swear you in. All right, we're going to start with item 78. Ms. Johnson Velez, or no? Sir, come on up.
Good morning, Carl Brody from Legal. Today we have second reading for the event zone for the Women's Final Four. If you have any questions, I'm here.
Any questions? All right, do you have anybody in the public that wishes to speak on item 78? I see no one. Can I get a motion to close? We have a motion from Councilmember Clendenin, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor? Aye. Councilmember Miranda, would you mind reading 78?
I move it, Mr. Chairman, and let me tell you what, this is the fastest growing sport in America, I think, the women's basketball. They have really turned this thing around. An ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption. An ordinance designating a portion of Tampa as an event zone in order to regulate activities from April 2nd, 2025 to April 7th, 2025 in preparation for hosting the 2025 NCAA Women's Final Four, designating geographic boundaries, dates, and times for the event zone, regulating and prohibiting temporary outdoor activities, tents, signages, and commercial promotions in the right-of-ways, providing for inspection and permit, providing for the First Amendment amended zones, providing for penalties, providing for definition, providing for severability, repealing conflicts, and providing effective date.
We have a motion from Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilmember Henderson. Please record your vote.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Vieira, I see you were absent at vote for 79 and a few others, 81,
Yes,
82.
and
Were you
I-
able to review the record?
Yes, and if I recall, this was the day, I think I had a mandatory meeting for a field trip. My son was taken to New York with his school, so yes, of course, as part of the, yes.
All right, item number 79. Yes, ma'am. Come on up, please state your name.
Good morning, Council. Emma Gregory, Legal Department. We're here for a second reading of a proposed ordinance that was actually presented in response to Council's motion, amending 15-104 to include the Yellow Brick Road area into the permit parking zones. So here, if you have any questions, Council didn't have any questions for first reading, so in case you change your mind.
Do we have anybody in the public for public comment? Yes, ma'am, come on up.
Stephanie Pointer, I just want to know when there were public information meetings about these changes. Thanks. I hadn't seen them. Nobody I know has seen them.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else here to speak? We have a motion to close from Councilmember Clendenin, second Councilmember Vieira. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Councilmember Vieira.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair, I move an ordinance presented for second reading, adoption, an ordinance, City of Tampa, relating to Chapter 15 Parking, Article 2 Regulations, Permits, Penalties, amending Section 15-104 Residential Parking Permit Only Area, providing for repeal of all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith, providing for severability, providing effective dates.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Vieira, second from Councilmember Clendenin. Please record your vote.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right.
Thank you.
We can now open, we have a few more, we can open the 10:30 a.m. petition.
So move to open.
Motion from Councilmember Miranda, second Councilman Vieira. All in favor? Aye. And I believe we had a couple new people walk in. If you're going to speak on any item between 80 and 88 and you have not been sworn in, please stand, raise your right hand. We have a couple people. Yes.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to provide is the truth?
Yes.
All right, that covers everybody. Item number 80. Do we have, yes, go ahead. Please say your name.
Good morning, Christopher DeBonch, Development Coordination. Item number 80 is REZ 2445. This item is a rezoning request for the property located at 3807 and 3811 West Swan Avenue. The request is to rezone from planned development to planned development, allowing for residential single-family attached uses. This is, of course, before you for second reading. Revisions have been completed and certified plans have been submitted to the clerk's office. I am available for any questions.
Any questions? All right, any applicant for item number 80? Yes, sir. Mr. Mechanic, please state your name.
Mr. Chairman, Council, my name is David Mechanic here on behalf of the applicant. I'm here to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions for the gentleman? Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on item number 80? Yes, sir. Come on up and state your name.
Good morning, members of the council.
Good morning, sir.
My name is Kyle Ross. I've been before you once before on this issue. I'm one of the neighbors directly abutting this project and one of the townhome owners directly impacted by this project. We left the last meeting where I spoke and multiple others about moving the dumpster from the northwest corner, where it was abutting against 3 different properties, and move it to the northeast corner. Mr. Miranda, you had a very clear directive. Move the dumpster to the northeast corner. And I'm shocked because I went online and I looked at their plans. It was moved. It was moved from the northeast corner, the northwest corner, right here, to the southeast corner. So now this dumpster is going to be the first thing that people see when they're driving down Swan Avenue. And I was shocked to think that they could get away with doing that, to think that we wouldn't check the plans, to think that they could pull the wool over the eyes of all the councils to do that. And members of the council, I think it's a symptom of a bigger problem here. You see, they don't have respect for the community that they're barging into. And I want to remind the panel that in 2021, David Weekley, they built 3 townhomes on the same size plot of land where they're trying to build 12 units. And it's too much on too little property. And they came in here last time. I ran out of time when I was trying to speak about how they didn't need to do a traffic study. Members of the panel, they need to do a traffic study. This is one of the worst bottlenecks of traffic in the entire city, if not the worst. When it's blocked up on weekends, especially with Trader Joe's and its gridlock from Dale Mabry to Clark, there's constantly people driving on the wrong side of the road recklessly to avoid that traffic. And here's some photos of it. Here's a photo from ABC Action News, basically standing in my driveway talking about it. Here's a photo that I took from my balcony, showing that gridlock, and that is regular gridlock. They absolutely need to conduct a traffic study. Don't let them try to pull a fast one like they're trying to do with the dumpster and try to say they don't need to do a study for traffic as well. This is a big project. It's a big straw. It just might break the camel's back. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else in the public that wishes to speak? Come on up. Yes, sir. Is there anybody else after this gentleman? Okay. Yes, sir. Please state your name.
Good morning. My name is Stephen Ault, 3815 West Swan. I just want to echo what Kyle said. The agreement was to move that dumpster to the east side, and I think the agreement was specifically to move it to the rear of the east side, abutting the commercial properties that are there, and another dumpster enclosure that's there for the businesses, the bagel shop and the smoothie shop and Burger King that's there, and putting all the dumpsters together in that far corner. Our speculation is, pure speculation, is that there's a residential property behind that, right behind this, owned by the same group that they're looking to develop, and they don't want the dumpster near that property to lower that property value. That's my speculation. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. But the agreement we all left with at the last meeting was that dumpster was going to be in the northeast corner of that property. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, next speaker. Yes, sir. Is there anybody after this gentleman? All right. Yes, sir. Go ahead. Please state your name.
Ryan Canellis. I'm one of the neighbors as well, members of the council. I'll just say enough has been said on it. We've reconvened here to revisit the same thing. It's unfortunate and borderline insulting if, in fact, that dumpster wasn't moved to the correct position. I'd like us all to, get back to what we agreed upon to begin with. If they have not already, I'm sure they'll state their case. I did run a quick search. I am not a property Google expert by any means. However, I did see the same name on the property on the opposite side. That is an open lot. So once again, I don't know what they're planning. I hope they have good, successful projects there, but I also hope they do it by respecting the community surrounding them. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Okay. Next speaker. Wait, we still have public comments, sir. Wait, you'll have rebuttal. No. He's part of the applicant. No, we have public comment. Who's going to go first? Okay, sir, and then Ms. Pointer. Yes, sir, please state your name.
Good morning. Trey Weingart, 4119 West Leona Street.
I'll find out. Sorry, sir.
No problem. Understood. A couple of things I would like to point out here is that this property is currently zoned, is also permitted for a 14,000 square foot commercial building. Now, Mr. Cohen has actually done a traffic study on this property.
Are you part of the applicant?
I'm the son-in-law of the applicant.
Wait as part of rebuttal.
Yes, Your Honor.
Because you're connected to it. So,
Okay.
All right, Ms. Pointer, you will be the last public comment speaker, then we'll go to rebuttal. I see Mr. Mechanic and others here. Yes, ma'am, please state your name.
Stephanie Pointer. I just need to ask one simple question. Why do the citizens of Tampa need to look at these people's garbage? I mean, why would you put it on the corner where everybody, it's going to be on the corner? And I was here for the last hearing, and these folks said they were going to put it on the northeast corner. Do what you say you're going to do. And I'll remind everybody, you're under oath when you stand up here. That's all I got to say. Oh. And guess what? Just because you meet with the neighborhood doesn't mean you listen, and this is the perfect example. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mechanic, you have rebuttal here. My question, as you've heard, regarding the movement of this dumpster, judging from what was shown here, is that dumpster now along Swan Avenue?
This is David Mechanic to the applicant. We filed a plan, and I would ask your staff to confirm this. We moved the dumpster to the northeast corner, and I have the site plan, and I'm going to put it on the Alma. If you could see, the dumpster was originally in this corner. We moved it over here, which is as far into the corner as we could get. There's drainage at the exact corner, but it's exactly where we were told to put it.
Can we refrain from conversations in the back and throughout the room? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes, sir.
So can the staff confirm that we put the dumpster where I just said it?
I'd like to see, yeah, what has been filed and why
This
are we
is,
getting...
what I have on the Elmo is what was filed.
And where did the public get the information that the dumpster was
I have
facing
no
on
idea
Swan?
that.
What is in the official record of what we're voting on now? And
I
what has
put
changed
that
from
on
first
the
to second?
Elmo.
Okay, and I want to confirm with staff so the public knows and we can see it. Yes, sir, please state your name.
St. Thomas Development Coordination. This is the site plan that you are voting on today. The applicant did comply with council's request to move the dumpster to this location in the northeast corner. When it comes to second readings, the applicant provides 4 hard copies. Those are then certified by staff and then brought to the clerk and the city. Those aren't necessarily uploaded to Acela because once they're certified by the council chair, we are then scanning them in and then uploading them to the Acela record. So the plan that they were looking at is a plan that was an iteration well in the past before DRC. That is a very old plan that was shown by the public.
So should this get approval today, being that I have to sign the site plan after the fact, I'm going to see this dumpster in this location as you're showing now, not what the public had told me. And there is, just to confirm, is there any way after we vote that they can change anything, or they by law, on record and under oath, have to oblige by what we're looking at right now, where the dumpster is in this northeast corner?
Yes, sir. This will be the plan of record. This will be the plan that they will be beholden to build to.
And there's no way to circumvent it after the fact?
Not that I am aware of. I think a substantial change to move the dumpster to anywhere else would not be approved.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Clendon and Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Chair. Go ahead. You said my name second, sorry.
That's okay. Question, because I know there are other changes. Do you have a site plan that came at the first reading, and what other changes were made to that site plan between first and second reading?
Oh, well, the changes were listed in the staff report, and we made all of the staff changes.
So did you eliminate one townhouse? Is that?
No, we did not.
Okay, and are there any changes to the dimensions of the townhouses?
No.
Okay, so the only changes were the relocation of, you did some visitor parking changes?
No changes to the parking. There are changes to the wording of the notes and the waiver. That's
Okay.
all.
Mr. Thomas, is that correct?
St. Thomas Development Coordination, yes, that's correct. The applicant made all the revisions that were supposed to be made on the revision sheet, in addition to moving the dumpster like council requested.
Okay. I still want to go on record with what my objection was on the first reading, is that as you looked, when one of the neighbors put the overhead of this street, every one of these single-family attached houses or single-family homes, all are forward-facing to Swan. All their doors face Swan. It is a neighborhood street. I'm not even going to address the traffic issue, because the traffic issue is created by the mistake of putting the supermarket where it is, and they're the ones that created that problem. The fact that this parcel is zoned to have an office building, the reason they're not building an office building is the market's changed. You know, office capacities have plummeted, so that's the reason they're changing to a different market. But the appropriate development pattern for this, obviously, it should be forward-facing, either detached or attached single-family homes, forward-facing to Swan, to mix this neighborhood. This is a substantial change. You're putting alley-style homes isolated from the neighborhood, just to squeeze on 2.5 lots maybe? I don't even know what it would be if you were to build houses here, but single-family homes, maybe just 2. The appropriate development pattern here, again, I just can't get past this. We vote on these things time and time again. We look at the neighborhoods, and that these type of development to be compatible with those folks that invested in their homes to the west of this property and to the southwest of this property. They all invested in a single-family attached neighborhood with a consistent development pattern, and we are dramatically changing that development in the neighborhood that they have their single most probably highest investment they'll ever have in their life.
Thank you. Councilman, anybody else?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
am I allowed to finish my rebuttal?
Of course. Yeah, you have time. Go ahead.
I think I only spoke for about 3 minutes.
You still have time. The rebuttals are 5 minutes.
Okay. Well, I would like to address the traffic. First of all, whatever congestion is out there was permitted by the city before we ever came on the scene. We don't generate one car today on that property. And I'd just like to remind council, this is the traffic analysis that we submitted previously. The blue bar reflects the use that was originally on the site, a daycare center. The red bar is the approved office, and the green bar is what we are proposing today. So we are proposing a substantially reduced amount of traffic for this particular piece of property. And again, my client is not generating any of the problem. There might be some things the city ought to be able to do about Trader Joe's, but I just respectfully request you don't deny this zoning application because you don't like what's happening with Trader Joe's. So with that, I will conclude my rebuttal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Is there anything else? If not, I'll ask for a motion to close. No. No, that's done. Motion to close from Councilmember Henderson, second Councilmember Vieira. All in favor? Aye. Councilmember Henderson, would you like to?
Yes, sir. Yes, I move file number REZ 24-45, an ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption, an ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 3807 and 3811 West Swan Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in Section 1 from zoning district classification PD plan development to PD plan development residential single-family attached, providing an effective date.
We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Hurtak.
I'm just going to reiterate my no vote because of pretty much what Councilmember Clendenin said. This is a development that absolutely does not fit in scale and size and to the rest of the street. It's very disappointing, and it's just not what we need to be seeing in the city.
Thank you. All right, please record your vote.
Motion carried with Clendenin and Hurtak voting no.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item number 81 is next.
Again, for the record, Christopher DeMonts, Development Coordination. Item number 81 is REZ 2470. This item is a rezoning request for property located at 3602 West Azeel Street. The request is to rezone from planned development to planned development, allowing business, professional, and medical office uses. Revisions have been completed and certified plans have been submitted to the clerk's office. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for the gentleman? All right, seeing none. Do we have an applicant for item number 81? Is there an applicant for 81? There is no applicant for 81. Well, is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on 81? There is no public comment for 81. Motion to close from Councilmember Clendenin, second Councilmember Henderson. All in favor? Councilmember Clendenin.
I move file number REZ 2470, an ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption, an ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 3602 West Azeel Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly describes in Section 1 from zoning district classifications, PD plan development to PD plan development business, professional, and medical office, providing an effective date.
We have a motion from Councilmember Clendenin, a second from Councilman Vieira. Please record your vote.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you very much. All right, item number 82. Go ahead, sir.
For the record, Christopher DeMonts, Development Coordination. Item number 82 is REZ 24101. This item is a rezoning request for the property located at 8813 Brook Street, 8901 North 13th Street, and 8814 North 14th Street. The request is to rezone from industrial general and residential single-family 50 to industrial general. This is a Euclidean rezoning request. There's no site plan associated with the application. I'm available for any questions you might have.
Any questions for the gentleman? No? Come on up, sir. Please state your name.
Good morning, City Council. Ryan Manassi with Johnson & Pope, Director of Development and Planning, 400 North Ashley Drive, Suite 3100. I'm here for any questions. Should you not have any, just respectfully request your approval.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the gentleman? Nope. Is there anybody here for item number 82 to speak for public comment? We have a motion to close from Councilmember Clendenin, second from Councilmember Henderson. All in favor? All right. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
File number REZ 24-101, ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption, and ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 8813 Brooks Street, 8901 North 13th Street, and 8814 North 14th Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in Section 1 from zoning district classification IG Industrial General and RS50 Residential Single Family to IG Industrial General, providing an effective date.
Second. We have a motion from Councilmember Hertai, second from Councilmember Clendenin. Please record your vote.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you very much. Item number 83. Go ahead, sir.
For the record again, Christopher DeMonch, Development Coordination. Item number 83 is REZ 24102. This item is a rezoning request for the property located at 3604 Temple Street. The request is to rezone from residential multifamily 16 to residential multifamily 18. This is a Euclidean rezoning request. There are no site plans associated with it. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for the gentleman? I see none. Do we have an applicant for item number 83? Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on 83? I see no one. We have a motion to close from Councilmember Clendenin, second from Councilmember Vieira. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Councilmember Carlson, 83.
I'd like to move item number 83, file number REZ 24-102, ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption, an ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 3604 Temple Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in Section 1 from zoning district classification RM16 residential multifamily to RM18 residential multifamily, providing effective date.
We have a motion from Councilmember Carlson, second from Councilmember Miranda. Please record your vote.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right. Item number 84. Go ahead, sir.
Same Thomas Development Coordination. Agenda item number 84 is REZ 24104. This item is a rezoning request for the property located at 402 South Oregon Avenue. The request is to rezone from residential multifamily 12 to planned development for single-family detached. Revisions have been made, and certified plans have been submitted to the clerk's office. Ron with Historic Preservation and myself are available if you all have any questions.
All right. Any questions for the gentleman? Applicant for item number 84.
Steve
Yes,
McElhaney, representing the petitioner. We respectfully request your approval. We were found consistent by all of the staff, and we've been through a lot with this, but we'd appreciate your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on 84? We have a motion to close from Councilmember Clendenin, second from Councilmember, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, Councilmember Miranda.
Item number 84, REZ 24-104. Ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption. An ordinance rezoning property general vicinity of 402 South Oregon Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly describes in Section 1 from zoning districts classification RM12 residential multifamily to PD planned development residential single family detached, providing an effective date.
Second. We have a motion from Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilman Vieira. Please record your vote.
Motion carried with Carlson voting no.
Thank you very much, Council.
Thank you very much. Item number 85. Go ahead, sir.
St. Thomas Development Coordination. Agenda item number 85 is REZ 24108. This item is a rezoning request for the property located at 2902 Melbourne Boulevard. The request is to rezone from residential multifamily 16 and commercial intensive to commercial general. Since this is a Euclidean rezoning, there is no site plan. I'm available if there's any questions.
Any questions for the gentleman? All right, Mr. Pressman is registered online. Is he online? And then, did he get sworn in? All right, Mr. Pressman, please turn your camera on, raise your right hand, we'll swear you in.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Please raise your right hand, turn your camera on, and we'll swear you in. Can you see him? All right, we're just waiting for your image to appear.
It's coming up.
Okay. There we go. Raise your right hand.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to provide is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
All right, go ahead, sir. Anything to present on 85?
No, this request has been very positive. We've had no opposition, and respectfully request to support a council of its unanimous decision on the first reading. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the gentleman? No? Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on 85? We have a motion closed from Councilmember Clendenin, second Councilmember Miranda. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Councilmember Vieira, 85.
Yes, sir, my pleasure. Move an ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 2902 Melbourne Boulevard in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification RM16 residential multifamily and CI commercial intensive to CG commercial general, providing effective date.
We have a motion from Councilmember Vieira. Do we have a second? Second from Councilmember Clendenin. Please record your vote.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, council.
Thank you very much. Next up is 86.
St. Thomas Development Coordination. Agenda item number 86 is REZ 24-110. The item is a rezoning request for the property located at 622 and 642 West Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard and 3912, 3915, and 3917 North Boulevard. The request is to rezone from planned development to commercial general. Since this is a Euclidean rezoning, there is no site plan. I'm available if there are any questions.
Any questions for the gentleman? Nope. Do we have an applicant? Yes, sir. Come on up. Please state your name.
Steve Michelini, representing the petitioner. This is a reversal, removing a PD and taking it back to Euclidean zoning. It was unanimously supported last time. We respectfully request your support.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the applicant? I see none. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on item number 86? We have a motion to close from Councilmember Clendenin, second Councilmember Miranda. All in favor? Aye. Councilmember Henderson, 86.
Yes. Homage to Otto's Corner. I move file number REZ 24110, an ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption. An ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 622 and 642 West Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard and 3912, 3915, and 3917 North Boulevard in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification PD plan development to CG commercial general and RS 50 residential single family, providing an effective date.
We have a motion from Councilmember Henderson, second Councilman Vieira. Please record your vote.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you, council.
Thank you, sir. All right, item number 87, our last rezoning.
St. Thomas Development Coordination. Agenda item number 87 is REZ 2519. This item is a request to rezone the property located at 3502 North Lincoln Avenue. The request is to rezone from residential single-family 50 to planned development for residential single-family attached. Revisions have been completed and certified plans have been submitted to the clerk's office. I'm available if there's any questions.
Any questions? All right, is there an applicant here for 87? Nope. All right. Is there anybody, well?
Hello, yes, I'm here.
We can hear you, but we can't see you, and we need to see you on video. Is that correct, Madam Clerk? Yeah.
It won't let me turn my camera on yet.
Do you have any objection if we just go forward and ask for public comment?
No, I do not.
Okay. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on item 87? There's nobody here. All right. Councilman Clendenin with a motion to close. Second Councilman Vieira, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Councilmember Clendenin, would you like to read this?
I move file number REZ 2519, an ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption, an ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 3502 North Lincoln Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classifications RS50 residential single family to PD plan development residential single family detached, providing an effective date.
Second. We have a motion from Councilmember Clendenin, second Councilmember Miranda. Please record your vote.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you very much. All right. Item number 88 is a petition to vacate, and we have a presentation. Yes, sir. Please state your name.
Ross Sammons, Development Coordination, presenting file number VAC 25-01. I'd like to ask the clerk to share that on the screen, please. Yeah, the applicant's name, Hubert Avenue Investments, LLC. Property address is 4614 North Hubert Avenue. This is a proposed vacating request to vacate a portion of West Chelsea Street located north of Alva Street, south of Cuyahoga Street, east of Manhattan Avenue, and west of Hubert Avenue. This application was filed October 17, 2024. This right-of-way was created by subdivision plat. The existing right-of-way is approximately 28,086 square feet. There is a proposed vacating request in yellow and the applicant's property in red. There's West Chelsea. This is the plat in which it was created. West Chelsea proposed area in red. Here's an image in the field looking east from North Manhattan. Again, approximate location of West Chelsea. This is looking west from North Hubert Avenue. Approximate location of West Chelsea. Staff has no objections to this vacating request. The special conditions include natural resources must comply with Chapter 27 as regards to tree preservation and site design for any improvements placed adjacent to trees in a vacated area. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Clendenin.
Can you put the overhead showing the vacation as well?
Yeah, just 1 second.
So the applicant only owns the property to the north?
To the north, correct.
To the north, and the properties to the south have technically, I guess if it was open, would have access to this alley?
It wasn't an alley, it was actually platted as a street. It's 50 feet wide. Now, as far as access, currently, there's a lot of property owners out there that have it fenced off, I guess, just unaware at the time, maybe. And didn't do the proper due diligence, maybe. But in the field, it's not drivable.
Okay.
And it's been that way for some time.
Okay, thank you.
And it's industrial zoning.
Understand.
Thank you. All right, applicant. Go ahead, sir. Please state your name.
My name is Mario Penzo. I'm the owner of the property, one of the owners of the property, and basically the neighbors, what the other council member was saying, the neighbors have signed off, and we submitted it in our application, that all of them kind of want to do the same thing. And that area is going to be used for water retention, so we're not going to disturb anything that's there, basically. It's going to stay the same exact way.
Thank you for clarification.
Thank you. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on item 88? I see no one. Motion closed from Councilman Miranda. Do we have a second? Second from Councilman Vieira. All in favor? Aye. And who wishes to read item number 88? Go ahead, sir.
Ordinance of the City of Tampa, Florida, vacating, closing, discontinuing, abandoning a portion of West Chelsea Street right-of-way located north of Alva Street, south of Cayuga Street, east of Manhattan Avenue, west of Hubert, within the replat of Drew Park and City of Tampa, Hillsborough County, Florida, more particularly described in Section 2 hereof, subject to certain covenants, conditions, or restrictions, as more particularly set forth herein, providing for enforcement and penalties of violations, providing for definitions, interpretations, repealing conflicts, providing for severability, providing effective.
Second. We have a motion from Councilmember Vieira, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any opposed? All right.
All right, motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on April 17th, 2025 at 10 o'clock a.m. in City Council Chambers, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you very much. We cannot go to the 1:30 public hearing, so we have to wait on those, but we can go to item number 91 regarding Chapter 15 parking. There was additional information submitted by Mr. Bidet. Yes, ma'am, if you want to go ahead.
Good morning, Council. I'm Gregory, Legal Department. This is a comprehensive update to Chapter 15 that we are presenting for first reading this morning. The intent of these changes is really to modernize and streamline the administration and procedures applicable to parking and the parking department. Fed Revolt, the parking director, submitted a memo alongside summarizing the major changes. So I'll let him.
Good morning, Council. Federal Valsita, Temple Parking Defense Manager. Just two quick clarification. One, this is just more administrative. We're not adding any new code. That's more state statute. And then also, it's really just updating the old language with the new modern language, essentially. So the memo was provided. I'm here to answer any questions.
Any questions? Any questions? Mr. Shelby, do we take public comment on this?
Yeah. Council's motion.
Okay. Anybody? All right, if not, we'll take it to public comment. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak? Ma'am? Motion closed. No? We have a motion to close from Councilmember Clendon. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Vieira. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Councilmember Henderson, would you like to read this?
I will.
91?
Yes, I would. I move file number E2025-8, Chapter 15, an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. An ordinance of the City of Tampa, Florida, deleting in its entirety the City of Tampa Code of Ordinances, Chapter 15, parking, adoption, a revised Chapter 15, parking, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
We have a motion from Councilmember Henderson. Do we have a second? Second. Second from Councilmember Clendenin. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on April 17, 2025 at 10 o'clock a.m. in City Council Chambers, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Lisa Edwards, do you have anything? Did you want to say something there? Yeah, come up to the lectern. What's going on?
Good morning.
Good morning. Right,
Yeah,
I was
let's
just
do
going to suggest if there's any staff reports that you're able to get to now, that way we can go ahead and still, you have some things to discuss after lunch.
Yeah,
So
let's do the
let's try to
sidewalk
get
and
through
the-
these other staff reports that we can, and then
Okay,
we'll
so
come back.
let's
Okay.
let's go to the sidewalk item.
Yeah.
I'm gonna. Kelly was trying to reschedule in the background. Can you go see if she's gotten that?
For your motions?
Yeah.
Yes, we have.
Oh, okay.
And yes, so
Great.
that's why I'd like to go ahead and hold that till after.
Okay.
Till we get to staff reports after lunch.
All right. How
Okay.
about the sidewalk in lieu of fee?
And if we could do,
Is there staff present or required for that? I believe Ms. Gregory.
Are you ready to present on the sidewalk?
I would just ask, Anna Gregory, Legal Department, Brandon Campbell, Transportation Engineering Manager, is on his way. So if we could,
Do you want to take a 10-minute recess to give him time to get here? We have plenty of time till 12.
We have 100 and 101 we could talk about.
All right, so 101 I'm going to wait till after lunch. I didn't think we were going to move this quick. All right, so item number 95, we're waiting on that because it's in connection to some other stuff as we mentioned earlier. All right, so let's see. 98 is going to be continued. Do we have a future date?
Let me look for that, if I may.
All right. Oh, there he is.
Oh, okay.
Look at that.
He's
not even out of breath. He didn't run. And he has a cup of coffee.
He stopped to get coffee.
Exactly. Yes.
All right,
Well, he's looking for a date, so. Okay, Brandon Campbell, could please state your name even though I just said it. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning, Council. Brandon Campbell, Mobility Department, here to talk about item 99.
Yes.
We uploaded a staff report as well as an attached draft resolution that reflects the actual construction costs of sidewalks for our city projects. I did bring a couple of things that I'd like to show on the Elmo, if I may.
Go ahead, sir. We see
So I
it.
think you saw this earlier today. The $220 figure was calculated looking at the sidewalk projects that were included in the last quarter's quarterly sidewalk update in December. We had 5 projects in that report, and I looked at the costs of those 5 projects in a few different ways in my presentation to the Tampa Bay Builders Association, just to make sure that we are giving it a fair look. Of those 5 projects, one was a fairly simple project. Barbados Avenue had virtually no grading and would not necessarily be a typical sidewalk project. So that cost was fairly low at $122.98 per linear foot. And then Glen Avenue was a more expensive project because it had some significant ditch infill and piping. And that came out at $635 a linear foot. Both of those numbers seemed to me reasonable to exclude in order to get a more typical project
Wait,
cost.
just a moment. I just want T and I to know that this is not on the public screen. We can see it here, but the slide that's on the overhead, we would like it on the big screen. We'll just wait a second here. So, because there's a lot of figures and I want the public to see it. Figures. There we go. Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
Yes, no, thank you for pointing that out. So I did take a look at these numbers in several different ways, and it seemed to me that the most reasonable way to do so was to eliminate the outliers and look at the 3 projects that were a little bit more typical for city sidewalk construction. I also brought another slide from that same presentation that I had shared with the Builders Association. And if we figured all of the costs of all 5 of those, it shows on the left side of that slide that those averages were pretty significantly skewed by the one project that was just more complex. And so it's a little bit difficult for us to peg an exact unit cost to our sidewalk projects. As you can see, there are wide variations in complexity of those projects. And so for that reason, it made better sense to sort of look at that middle range of what's typical. The item that was uploaded to the agenda today, I think I mentioned to most of you individually that it is a draft resolution. I understand that there may or may not be an option for you to adopt that resolution here and now, but certainly wanted to give it an opportunity to be discussed in front of you all.
Anything else?
No, that's all I had.
So
Happy
before I
answer
go to
questions.
council members, the numbers that you're showing us in the project list on the previous slide, you showed $219.80 per linear foot, I believe was the average. Yes. So these are big projects. Would this apply to somebody that's building a single family home, being that it's like an RS-50 lot and they have only so many feet? Do they have the same costs as something that is 1,700 linear feet or 800 linear feet, since it's such a small, a driveway and then a little bit of sidewalk? Is it fair to tell them, we're paying $219 on average, but really for a single family home, it can be less considering it's such a, it's a much smaller project and it's an individual piece, not a big stretch of road?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. I think there are 2 things that come into play in response to that question. The first is that the cost to a private contractor already mobilized in constructing a home, we would anticipate their direct costs, if they're doing the installation, to be lower than our costs, in part because it's an ancillary item to the other construction on site. So certainly that number would be lower. The other part of my response to that question is when we're looking at larger projects, generally what we see is that we get an economy of scale by doing longer projects. We in fact have a project that we're in pursuit right now of a contract on. It's going to be included in the next quarterly report. But it's a $2 million upset limit to take advantage of the budget allocation that you all provided specifically for sidewalk construction and doing one larger design build project. And we expect our unit cost for that project specifically to be lower than what's typical. So we'd be happy to, once the scope and fee and the project certainties are in place on that, we'd be happy to take a look at it as well and say, hey, is there a need to adjust again what the in lieu fee is?
So I know we haven't visited this item in years and the cost of sidewalks has gone up. I remember with the previous administration, I had requested for a sidewalk to be put in on a road in West Tampa along the river because of speeding and traffic and the lack of sidewalk. I mean, just a whole story. And I remember it being a $100,000 project, but it spanned several blocks. I can only imagine what it costs today. We've lost a lot of opportunities of sidewalks getting built. We're not catching up with the rising cost of everything because, again, when I asked for this item, I want to say maybe 2017, you could buy a house in West Tampa for $180,000. Now they're $450,000, along with everything else going up. I think we should have visited this and gradually done an increase over the years instead of going, what is it now? I mean, it's like a 900% increase. I think it's $30 to $220 or whatever it is. Just throwing just my random numbers here. You know, but we have, the biggest complaint I get is please pave the roads. The second biggest complaint is we need sidewalks. So, you know, there's a public demand, there's a public safety demand. We've had people, I expected hours of public comment today based on the amount of emails that we've gotten from individuals, organizations, people that I know personally. I mean, a little bit of everybody because of the demand for sidewalks. So I'll wait to hear what other council members say. Thank you very much for the presentation. I believe it was Clendenin Hurtak. All right, go ahead, sir.
Yes, so I just confirm, so when city assesses these types of fees, it's my understanding that we can recoup our actual cost, which we are legally entitled not just to recoup the cost of this construction, but engineering, design, excavation, utility work, and that would actually be in legal compliance with Florida statute, correct? Actually, the actual cost reimbursements, whatever the actual cost of that project is?
So this is governed by our ordinance, and just
But I mean, setting fees, so this is not just this. So this, the
Right,
ordinance,
so our
this is
fee-
Florida statute of setting fees.
our fee is set per our ordinance. There's a calculation in the ordinance, and it is,
Yeah, I understand, but there's also regulation, I believe, by the state of Florida that mandates that cities, in other words, we can't make a profit on fees. We have, by
Right,
state,
they
by
have to be-
Florida statute.
they have to be tied to actual costs. Yes.
So those actual costs of this construction could include engineering, utilities, I mean, it could, so what I'm getting at is this is a bargain. Because we're not asking for reimbursements on all this other stuff that could have been included in these projects, correct? Is this just the actual cost of construction?
It is the actual cost of construction, which does include the ancillary items like grading and ramps, and if there happens to be a tree removal, that sort of thing, as part of the construction cost. It does not include the design engineering.
And the staff time and all of
Correct.
that you're doing. Okay, so again, I think that this is a bargain. I mean, I concur with our chairman about, you know, the need of the city. I ran on it. And I think most people in this, we've been beating this drum, and we've been getting beat over the head by citizens about our potholes, the condition of the roads, and the lack of sidewalks. I mean, hell, I ran on it twice. I lost once, but ran on it a second time, and still won that one on it. And we have to do something about sidewalks. And I think I just want to drive the point home that if these in lieu of fees are not paying for the sidewalks, then our taxes are paying for the sidewalks. So instead of the developer of a new construction, which is creating this impact and this growth and these issues, instead of them paying for it, the senior citizen that's paying properties, or anybody else in the city of Tampa is paying, somebody's got to pay for it. These things aren't being put in for free. I mean, no sidewalk ferries coming in and installing sidewalks. Somebody's got to pay for it. And my point, this would not be a question for you guys. Why would I ask somebody on a fixed income, or somebody living someplace else, to pay for a sidewalk that should be paid for by the impact of new construction in the city of Tampa? It just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me.
All right, Councilmember Hurtak, and then Councilmember Vieira. You want Miranda? Okay, yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I'm sure you all saw, there was a cyclist killed this morning on 50th Street.
Yes.
I mean, we have to do better for our community, people who don't use cars, and improving our sidewalks is a big part of that. Most of this sidewalk building isn't building sidewalks in front of single-family homes, like one home. these are larger projects that you've talked about, and because we're good stewards of our money and we try for economies of scale, and what you've been talking about makes perfect sense to me. I live in a house where I am the only house on the street with a sidewalk because I have the newest construction on the block. So my house was built after the rule of you gotta build a sidewalk. And building the sidewalk in front of my house was very complicated because I have an oak tree. So they had to go around it. It was not cheap. I have to imagine there was some extra cost involved, but they chose to build it anyway. So now I have a sidewalk to nowhere. But it's there, and it's the beginning of what could be more sidewalks. The thing that really sells this for me is that builders can simply build a sidewalk instead of paying into the fund. There's no rule that says you have to pay into the fund. So build a sidewalk. And as it has been shown, you know, when you have a concrete truck coming already, you know, the cost is significantly cheaper for the developer. So you know, I don't think I've seen so much passion about an issue except for Pure, possibly the Pure thing. But we have received so much personal email with stories, people's stories about sidewalks that have been really, really, just shows the absolute desire for us as a city to build more sidewalks. So I just want to say thank you so much for this. I appreciate all the time and effort you put in to do this, and I look forward to being able to support it.
Miranda Vieira calls.
Thank you. I have an email someone sent me some time back, and I got to say, I said back years ago that I hated sidewalks. I don't recall ever saying that, but I got the email. So I'm saving it, just in case I need it. And that's number one. Number two, what Ms. Hurtak, what Councilmember Hurtak was speaking about, and maybe not directly to that point, but there's another point. There's a lot of areas in this city that have ditches in front of the house. So some of those ditches are vacant land. So if you cannot put a sidewalk and you build a house, from what I understand, you're going to have to pay for somebody else's sidewalk. Am I correct?
Well, there would be, so the ordinance requires that sidewalks are built. In the event that a sidewalk is found to be not practical, there's a certain number of instances where the transportation manager or his designee can make a finding that it's not practical. In the event that the sidewalk is not practical, then the sidewalk in lieu fee can be paid into the sidewalk in lieu fee fund, and then it can...
I hate to interrupt you. Can be. Is it you can be or you have to be? Which one is you can't have both?
You mean, okay, if a sidewalk is found to be not practical,
right,
you must pay the sidewalk.
You must, that's
lieu.
correct,
Yeah.
but you have to pay for somebody else to have a sidewalk. Am I correct?
You pay into the sidewalk in lieu fee fund for that particular district, and then that money can be used for sidewalk projects.
So that person will never have a sidewalk.
I mean,
I'm
not
just bringing
that-
up things that are going to happen.
Yeah, when you pay the fee.
So the city can do something for it. They could put a ditch, cover the ditch, and have sidewalk on top of what they covered. Why don't the city, if they really want to do a job right, then they should pipe that land so that individual that's paying for the sidewalk has a sidewalk. I think it'd be logical. But we ourselves don't want to spend any money for that one individual. And let's say, I'm just going to say one individual in the whole city, which I know I'm wrong at. I just want clarity because the same thing, I have a house and I add to the house without a permit and I sell it to you, they come after you for what I did. That's also in my gall that I can't swallow that one. But that's a law that we have in the city of Tampa. So now we're going to charge somebody who cannot get a sidewalk. What about if you hold that money in retention? He pays into a fund and you hold it so he can get a sidewalk whenever the sidewalk is put in.
I mean, it's something that we could look into, but I personally don't think it would be feasible.
I'm just trying to be very fair.
Yeah.
People don't understand this.
I mean, if people don't want to pay the
No, I didn't say
in-lieu
they don't
fee,
want to pay. They want a sidewalk, but they have a ditch in front of their house.
I mean, can it?
Yeah, I mean, it is technically possible to fill in that ditch as part of the redevelopment. Sometimes those things are the reasons for which an applicant does pay into the in lieu fee, because like the project I mentioned where we did exactly that, it was $663, $635 per linear foot for us to do so. So in that case, for a developer or homeowner, it becomes a very expensive proposition, and less likely that upstream or downstream of that the project would continue. So that's the reason for which the in lieu fee is an
The city
option.
paid for that individual to have a sidewalk or whatever.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Are you committing to that same?
No, we are not.
So why'd you do that commitment and not do it to the ones that can't get a sidewalk, but they gotta pay in lieu of? The city's already set a precedent. You just said they're paying $600, which I agree with. I'm not disagreeing with you, sir. But if you did it for once, you ought to do it for everybody else in the city then.
Sure. I understand. I would say we do build sidewalks, as I mentioned with our upcoming $2 million project, on properties that would otherwise would have sidewalks built on them under redevelopment.
I want to make sure everybody's got the same plan that you're giving out. That if you have a ditch, you can still build a sidewalk.
Yes.
Who's going to pay for the piping?
That would
It's on
be
the city right away.
That would be part of the redevelopment and the right-of-way permit.
I just want that commitment. All right.
Councilman Vieira Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And no, I'll obviously support this. I think this is a very good pro-neighborhood measure, and everyone is right that, we hear a lot about sidewalks from people, and, there's always an idea that one part of the city has great sidewalks, the other one doesn't. Go throughout all of the city of Tampa, South Tampa, East Tampa, North Tampa, West Tampa. Sidewalks are equally miserable, I think, throughout a whole lot of Tampa. That's just the way that it is. But part of the frustration that I have, and I think a lot of us have too with this, is that this is great, but when you look at what we potentially had a few years ago, where we're left in cities like Tampa and communities like Hillsborough County at doing patchwork solutions to things like sidewalks, which is a basic neighborhood need, when in 2018, voters overwhelmingly passed through all for transportation, about 60%, including almost well over 60% in New Tampa, for example, the suburbs, a penny sales tax that would have gone in part to sidewalks because people care so much about this. And I go back to 2018 as saying that people are saying they are so frustrated with issues involving mobility, including sidewalks, that they go, we want to take more of our hard-earned money and pay it so that we can address this basic life need. So, these are things that we are left to having to do in the aftermath of the legal issues after 2018, the legal issues that essentially preempted a vote in 2022. Again, not talking about the merits of those cases at all, but the community, I still believe in 2025, does want robust solutions to issues like this. And this is what we're left with right now, which is a big step forward. This is a great thing, but we wanted we wanted a holistic solution, and we're doing like the what's that song, Johnny Cash, one piece at a time. We're doing one piece at a time right now, and every piece is important. This is an important piece, but the community, I think, still demands that holistic solution, I believe. But thank you all for your hard work in getting this one piece at a time. Thank you.
And in the song, it says one piece at a time, and it didn't cost me a dime. This is going to cost money, but it's a necessity. Councilmember Carlson.
Yes, thank you. This is something that's come up several times since I've been on council the last 6 years, and it hasn't been able to go forward for whatever reasons in the past. So I'm looking forward to hopefully getting the votes to get this approved today. It is an unfortunate fact that governments typically get higher prices than the private sector because for various reasons, and we have to pass on the actual cost of it, and we're not marking it up with some kind of penalties or anything. We're just charging the actual cost of what the city has to pay, and they have the option that they can build on their own. So if they can get it for $30 a foot or whatever, they can do that if they want. But if they can't, then they pay into the fee. This is, as others said, this is a small piece in a larger issue. Folks talked about running on platforms when I ran in 2019, sidewalks were an important issue. And shortly after I got elected, I made a motion, 2 motions, which council approved and supported, which was one to create a sidewalk plan, a vision sidewalk plan for the whole city, and number 2 was to create a bicycle plan and vision for the city. And that the administration shoved it aside. What the public is asking for now is leadership in the mobility department, and they're asking for the administration to be committed to supporting the mobility department. The attempts to pass new taxes failed multiple times. That money is not coming anytime soon. And if the next campaign is run like the ones in the past, it'll fail likely as well. In the meantime, while we're waiting on potential new funding sources, the public doesn't want the streets to fall apart, and they don't want the sidewalks to fall apart. Folks in wheelchairs want to be able to get by. Folks with strollers don't want to walk in the streets when cars are speeding by. The potholes and road repair issues in our community are some of the worst I've ever seen anywhere in the world. If anybody doesn't believe it, go to New Suburb Beautiful. I mention them almost every week. The roads there are just horrific, and all we hear is excuses, excuses, excuses. I've asked the administration publicly and privately, please step up and start fixing these systemic issues. The new funding's not coming anytime soon. The cavalry's not coming in. We have to figure out how to resolve it ourselves. Thank you. So Councilmember Hurtak is going to be the first speaker on the second round, and then Miranda. But let me ask you, so $219.80 a linear foot. What does, on average, if you know, how does that affect a single-family home? If there's a new construction and a person builds a house on an RS-50 lot, what is the increase from what they're paying now to this proposal, or what you're talking about today?
So I looked back this morning at the approved in lieu fee contributing permit applications, and there's been 44 of them in this calendar year. The average length of sidewalk that was used to calculate that was 71 feet. So a lot of these are a little bit larger lots. But the average cost for a 71-foot in lieu fee contribution would then end up being at just under $15,000.
Okay, thank you very much. And being that this is a staff report, but it mentions here to create a resolution, Mr. Shelby, we're not voting on anything today. What would be the next?
My recommendation,
We have a
Council,
draft resolution.
if you look at your agenda, item 99 is not stated as presenting a resolution for council action. Specifically, what it does say is to staff to create a resolution to adjust the sidewalk in lieu fee. And it was stated that it is posted as a draft, the memorandum stated as a draft. My suggestion would be that you put it on as a motion to take action on either under your consent agenda or unfinished business, such as presenting the resolution for action. And I tell you this because of the fact that what you have is, this is not an ordinance. It doesn't come back for a public hearing. There are not 2 readings. This is one and done. So what will happen is the opportunity is there is new information given. There's been a presentation. So my recommendation is that it be placed on a future agenda so that people would have an opportunity, because this being a draft could have been amended in some form or fashion. So there's a presumption there that there wouldn't be action on this based on the way this ordinance was stated. So it would be my strong recommendation that you put it on a future agenda for adoption.
Thank you.
I have clarification for what he just said. I have a question for Marty Shelby.
Go ahead.
So file number CM 247533 states, city staff to create a resolution to adjust the sidewalk fee in lieu of fee to reflect the actual cost of building sidewalks. So that, if we were to move that, that would just require city staff to come back with a resolution setting the in lieu of fees.
They did that. We have the draft resolution.
I know, but I'm saying, the way this is published,
Okay. Yes.
but the way this is published, we move this the way it is, they're going to come back with the resolution setting the fee.
Okay.
Because of the way this is published. Is that correct?
Well, from this action, from this resolution, if council were to accept it, would there be any other action required of council subsequent to this? After this? Or does this set the fee and you can, and from that point on, from the time council moves the resolution, you will be able to implement it. Is that correct?
Yes, we brought it to council this way as part of the staff report.
Yes.
In anticipation that there would be discussion of
Yes.
the fee, so that's why we didn't place it on the agenda. You know what I mean?
Well, this
Place
was
it
the
on the
motion
agenda
that
as a fully fleshed out resolution for,
So your intent is this to come back with a fully fleshed out resolution, is that what I'm hearing?
Mr. Shelby, I mean, that's what I'm hearing.
The motion won't the motion will be to bring it back, but the resolution, the draft, from what I understand here in council, is that it'll be accepted as is and you won't make any changes. Is that correct?
Unless there is direction from council to change something in the resolution, I don't anticipate there being any changes.
So it's ready to rock and roll. The only difference is there's been a presentation, there's been slides attached. There are, I suspect, findings of fact, but there's no opportunity for anybody to address any of the things that were presented today. So that's why, this being a resolution and not an ordinance with 2 readings, my suggestion would be to be able to put it on a future agenda.
Councilmember Hurtak, and then Miranda.
Thank you. I really just want to go ahead and set that for April 17th. I move that we set the resolution for April 17th on the consent agenda.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Councilman Miranda, do you have to add anything?
He seconded the motion of that.
Do you want to speak on anything?
No, not the motion of the full, I'm fine with that.
Okay, Councilmember.
Well, I want to speak on what they're going to bring back, but so do you want to move this first? Because I do want to give direction about this first.
So you don't want to speak on the motion on the floor, you want to speak
You want to speak on the motion?
Well, I guess.
Yes, so
I guess
go
I'll
ahead,
speak.
speak on the motion.
So, I would appreciate if you all, because I believe what the figures that you created were just based on on 1 quarter?
It was 3.
3 quarters?
3 different projects.
Okay, and do you know what quarters they were?
Yes, they were Fig Street.
No, not streets, calendar quarters,
Oh, I thought you said corridor. I'm
No,
sorry, I misheard you.
No, it's okay.
So these 5 projects, I believe, were primarily completed over 2 quarters, the last 2 quarters.
Is it possible, just because to getting more data points, is it possible, could you bring with you the data over a period of 4 consecutive quarters, hopefully the last 4 consecutive quarters, about how much these projects cost?
Yes.
And I concur with your analysis about throwing out the outliers, because that either they're either under or over. I agree with that. So, but if you could reflect that in the data that you bring, show us those outliers. But when you amortize it out, with that figure, I think more data points is better, and I think maybe it would build some comfort with some of the naysayers about this to show that. Well, I think one naysayer represents a bunch, So anyway, I would like to see the data points. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have a motion and a second. Councilman Miranda?
No, not on that motion, I want to speak after that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Will you have more? Councilman Hurtak?
I won't.
All right, motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Councilmember Miranda.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. We're now doing our own paving of roads, am I correct?
Yes.
Why don't we looking at Districts 4, 5, and 6, which is the composite of the amount of land in the city, and instead of paying what they're charging us, do our own sidewalk program. But if we're doing our own, it costs that much money?
So I will say our ops team is building that skill set. These projects were contracted out. So I don't know that we're ready for large-scale sidewalk construction, but we're working that direction.
I thought we had 2 teams setting up.
That's paving.
I thought we had expanded the sidewalks.
No, it's just paving, in-house paving.
I would add in a separate motion, if I may, that mobility come back on April the 17th, if they have time for this. I'm not trying to pressure into any time. What would be the actual cost for the city taking over the total sidewalk replacement in cities in District 4, 5, 6, and 7? And that's to have the ability to lower the cost. And I think we can get a much better price if you do not sub it out. You do it yourself. If you sub it out, might as well have the contractor do it.
How do you want that? It would have to be a separate staff report, or?
I think it's a
I'm
new
just asking
business.
mobility if they can do that.
Do you want to wait till new business and we'll put together?
Yeah, we'll do it in
a
new
formal
business.
motion? All right.
Well, I would also like to say that, 7 doesn't need that because their streets are already, sidewalks are already paved in gold.
Yeah, yeah.
So-
Sorry.
Well, you know what? That's why I wanted it. That's the
New town.
only part of the city that was new, there was vacant land, and it always developed as a plan, all of it,
Yeah.
which were not new, and we're already developed.
Right. Mr. Chair? I'd like to make a point, and some of this is in reference to some of Councilman Miranda's observations. One, I know these are not impact fees, but, we talk about impact fees all the time, and how when you redevelop or you develop, you are impacting the city, and so a lot of that is kind of the difference between, how we're developing the city, and that side, nobody, if that land sat the way it is right now, you wouldn't have to pay anything. It's the change that provokes that fee, so somebody's actually taking action, they're building something which is putting another stress point on the city. And we're trying to build a better city. So I think that's part of the biggest thing here. I think why, again, it was just highlighted that this is paid for by city. The difference between us maybe and some of the price discrepancies is the city pays living wages. The city pays retirement. The city pays health care. We treat our employees well. I can't tell you what some of these contractors, what type of, they're using, or whether they're certified people, whether they're trained people. I don't know, but I will stand behind the city employees and the quality of work they do, the training, what they bring to the table, and what we provide for the city employees. And guess what? That costs money.
We provide a plan, but the employees participate in the plan by paying a cost.
I know, but I'm
Yeah,
saying.
I understand what you're saying, though. I
I
understand.
mean, the difference between going to Home
No,
Depot and
I
picking up a
understand.
day
I'm not
labor
debating.
to pour in a bunch of concrete versus actually having qualified, trained, well-paid employees do this, it's gonna cost money. You get what you pay for.
Councilmember Miranda.
Miranda,
I'm
you looking
sorry.
that way from Miranda?
I'm looking at Campbell, Councilmember
I've
Carlson.
changed already, look at
And
it.
I'm watching the TV, and go ahead. sir.
I just wanted to say, for the schedule, Ron Wigington is here, and if, with number 100, we could knock out within 10 minutes if we.
That was gonna be the next one, yeah. All right, so we're good on that, and you're gonna have a motion under new business regarding
Yes, sir.
sidewalk stuff?
I did
Yes,
want to
sir.
request, when you do make that motion, if you could consider giving us 90 days or scheduling it at a workshop, we would appreciate it.
90 days?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, well, look, we'll go by the calendar, and thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Wigington, item number 100, and then after Mr. Wigington, would you all like to go ahead and break?
Yes.
All right.
Can I just set this up real fast?
Yeah, yes, sir, go ahead.
And I want to thank Ron and his colleagues. He's done enormous amounts of research on this, but some neighbors on Davis Islands discovered that some commercial contractors were pulling a dock alongside the seawall on Davis Island next to a road, and then they were bringing up commercial trucks in front of houses and condos and loading heavy equipment or heavy supplies from the road into the barge, and then it was moving on somewhere else. And so that set us on a whole journey, and he's had to talk to several different agencies to figure out what to do about that. It's also incredibly loud. We're worried about the damage to the seawall and roads and others, so I'll let him take it.
Mr. Wigington, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Ron Wigington, Legal Department, good morning. Item number 100 is a motion requesting the Legal Department to appear and discuss the possibility of creating an ordinance that would prohibit the commercial usage of seawalls or docks in residential areas, except in locations specifically designed for commercial use, and further, that any possible ordinance would also regulate the type of usage, hours of operation, sound requirements, and any need for a permit. So the short answers to those questions are yes, there is a possibility for an ordinance, and yes, there is a need for a permitting process. However, it's complicated, and I think it might require a broader discussion amongst all the stakeholders, and I'll mention that in a moment. But the reason why it's complicated is I see this from 4 different perspectives. The first is the seawall perspective. And I've researched 7 different jurisdictions that are similarly situated to us, and I really only found one code section that may apply to the situation. That's found in Miami, Section 50-157, which is the section that addresses public property, abutting water, and the use restrictions thereof. That code section states that it is unlawful to use any city-owned property abutting water except as permitted at city marinas or authorized by city manager. It goes on to say that city-owned property includes the ends of any streets, roads, public ways, or parkland which abuts the water. I did not see any reference in this code about a permitting process, and I'm not exactly sure what the authorized by city manager means. I do believe that a permitting process would be very effective here, though, but it does require the analysis of many different factors to consider. Namely, it is costly to administer and enforce a new permitting process. It requires coordination and input from multiple city departments such as mobility/parking, Parks and Rec, TPD/Marine Patrol. It requires a business impact statement reflecting the estimated cost to the city and the businesses that would be impacted by the ordinance, both of which would take substantial time accumulating and compiling. And you also want to make sure that you avoid unintended consequences if you can, and you want to provide for equal treatment of the law. From the right-of-way perspective, it's a little bit different than the seawall because here you have a little bit more flexibility. You can actually regulate parking without having an ordinance. That type of regulation can include potentially restricting the types of uses, establishing freight zones, the hours of operation, etc. However, this also may have some unintended consequences, especially when you have a baseball field right next door that's being used and parking is going to be surrounding that area. The third perspective is the waterside perspective, but unfortunately this is the most complicated area because you're dealing with protected navigable waters, and there's a lot of preemption and state regulation on these waterways. You deal with submerged lands, the mooring fields, there are anchor limitation fields that are options, but those anchor limitation fields aren't exactly what it sounds like because it's not a prohibition of anchoring, it's just a limitation of the anchoring. So, and I've done a lot of research on the waterway aspect of it, I'm only scratching the surface, but I do feel it's necessary to consider because what we are dealing with here are vessels on water, and many times maybe the only enforcement that you can do is from the water. So I think that's important to consider. And then finally, the noise perspective, and I wanted to briefly address that because that was part of the motion. And we do have Chapter 14, which addresses excessive noise, but unfortunately that really only mentions noise coming from property or the airspace above that property. It doesn't mention anything about water property. So I think that Chapter 14 would need to be modified to maybe include this type of situation, and that wouldn't be too difficult to do. So for all these reasons, I felt like it might be appropriate to schedule a workshop meeting because you have a lot of different people that are involved here. You have dock companies, you have taxi companies, you have other entities that are transporting personnel on and off from the boat, and you have many different departments that all may be involved or be impacted by this. And I just thought it might be a good opportunity to have all the stakeholders have the opportunity to voice their opinion and come up with a solution to this problem.
Councilmember Carlson, and then Councilmember Clendenin.
I have to go with Ron's recommendation because he's the one that would know whether we could easily put together an ordinance or not. So, but based on that recommendation, I would make a motion to schedule this for a workshop. When did you say the first one is? September? Maybe schedule this for the September workshop.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Councilmember Clendenin.
Yeah, is this a one-off thing? I mean, are we going to spend a lot of time and energy when we should be doing a lot of other stuff?
Well, the other interesting thing is Pirate Taxi also pulls alongside there, and the neighbors like Pirate Taxi because that's an amenity, and so we can't treat people unfairly, and so and like you were saying in your show the other day about using the waterway, what happens if we used? He was on a podcast that I was listening to, but if we suddenly had transit up and down the river, then that was taking people places, we would need to be able to regulate it in the appropriate way. So,
well, I think, like you say, the water regulation is really complicated. There's so much preemption and so many other people with fingers in this pie. Yeah, it's just, God, this just seems like a can of worms. I mean,
Councilmember, wait, Councilmember Ryan.
I want to just say this. I don't know what they were transporting. Is this a one-time deal that somebody was doing? Was they doing it commonly? Was they selling refrigerators up north or up the river and putting it somewhere in a residential district who has a house on the river and loading it up on a boat and taking it north? I don't know what they were doing.
I'm not exactly sure what the equipment that they are transporting from land to sea. Obviously, it would involve dock repairs and dock constructions, so whatever that may entail. As far as the frequency of it, it's sporadic but regular, and there's multiple companies that are operating from there.
So it's not a one-time deal, it's a regular deal that they're doing, transporting something?
It's not constant, sporadic, but.
Where's this at?
Well, in this particular case, as Councilman Carlson mentioned, it's right next to not Julian B. Lane, Marjorie Park in Davis Island, next to the baseball fields.
The marina, Marjorie.
Right, on Seddon Channel.
Yeah, that's
That
right
helps.
next to where the clubs are.
Yeah.
Across the street from the pool.
Yeah, right up in that corridor.
There are stories that maybe it's been going on for as many as 20 years, but the neighbors who are around there just suddenly started to complain and they got organized about it, and so that's how this came up. But there is a risk that in any residential neighborhood, companies could start loading things, and so it brought up a really interesting question.
Yeah, this isn't a one-time thing. I heard about something like this from a Davis Islands resident 2019, maybe, and it was, so this isn't a one-time brand new thing. So we have a motion and a second to set this for a workshop.
Please.
All in favor?
Aye.
September 25th?
Yes.
September 25th. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. We're in recess until 1:30.
Thank you.